Howdy do, everybody. Welcome to Saturday. Thank you for joining me. It's the freaking weekend, baby. It's the freaking weekend, baby. About to have me some news. Oh, we had a bunch of people in here. Where'd everybody go? Come back. I got a chat here from Man Within 4232. From 5 viewers to raid bait status. peakpy.com carried me. I don't know what that means. But thanks for interacting with the live. Yeah. Anyway, it's Saturday. Feeling good? Feeling better? How are you feeling? How's everyone feeling out there? Hope everyone's having a good day. Good start of your day. I'm not sure where everybody is. But thanks for being here. Hop on in on the chat. Say what's up. And I guess let's just get rolling, huh? We got a lot to cover. I'm really excited to show you my new organizational plan here. Instead of just clicking like 25 links at a time, I have everything nice and sorted. Ready to go. Yeah. Got a lot of shit going on. Bondi was out this week. That's pretty crazy. Right before she's set to testify before Congress too, which is, I think very purposeful. Why would you fire your attorney general before she's slated to give a deposition or a testimony before Congress, and then have her do it not with the backing of the White House and not with the backing of the Trump administration? Kind of just leaving her out to dry, which she deserves. She deserves much worse than that. And I hope that someday she will get what is coming to her for all of the crimes that she is complicit in and the things that she has wrought upon our country. Yeah. What else? There was some other stuff. We had the first rocket going back to the moon for the first time in 53 or 58 years. That's pretty crazy. They're just flying around. They're not even landing. They're just going up to the moon to say, "What up, moon?" Give them a little wave, and then they'll be heading back to Earth. I'm pretty sure they're slated to re-enter the atmosphere next Saturday, and Artemis 1 had some pretty bad issues with their heat shield. The ship didn't blow up, but it was definitely at risk of like catastrophic calamity. So we'll see if how everything pans out with the re-entry of Artemis 2. Hopefully everything goes well, because this one actually has people on board. The last one didn't have anybody on board. So hopefully it's good. Hopefully it's a good landing. War in Iran and Lebanon keeps going on. Obviously, we're not getting out of that anytime soon. Israel still keeps committing war crimes and pogroms against settlers in the West Bank. We have a BOA settlement update in the Epstein files. Lots of Trump news. Lots of government news. White House, Congress, all this stuff, international shit. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to show you now what this beautiful list looks like. Oh. Isn't it so nice? Look at this. Broken down by section. Each one's got a little title to it, so I know what the fuck is going on, so I'm not just wildly clicking buttons and opening a bunch of links. We got everything broken down. All of it broken down. Economy, affordability, technology, environment, entertainment. We're going to spend some time today talking about the smear campaign going on against Hassan, the GOAT. We're also going to talk about Kanye. Yuck. He's back, apparently. And he had apparently put out an apology statement last year in the Wall Street Journal. I did not know that. I'd never read it. I didn't even know he apologized. I know he said that he was like crazy or whatever, and he sure was. What's up, XXXXX Dexter? XXXXX. How's it going? Welcome to the stream. Yeah, and then we're gonna finish up today with 2 more Perfect Union videos about the Cisco takeover of the food industry. Oh, just say Dexter? Okay. I didn't know if I should say all the X's. I'm good so far. We just started the live. Thanks for popping in and saying hi in the chat. We're gonna start digging into the news. Have you been here before? Have you watched the stream at all in the past? We're brand new. We just started like 3 weeks ago. So still getting used to, still getting the hang of things and seeing how things go. Good to have you here. All right, we're going to start with Iran. What are these links? I'm new here. So these are all the news links, news stories that we'll be covering today. It's a combination of trustworthy Twitter links that usually link to a news article, and then like actual news article links that we'll read or videos that we'll watch. The stream is all about what's going on in the news, what's going on in the politics, things that the mainstream media might be covering in a very slanted, biased way. We try and cover here with a little bit more nuance. I'm not an expert. It's not the dark web. No, it is not the dark web. I'm not an expert. I'm just some guy who wakes up every day and reads the news and gets mad. So I decided to start a Twitch channel to talk about it and share my progression through the political landscape, and how I came to be, tapped in to what's going on, and just trying to help others find out what's going on in the world and make sure people are aware of what's happening in their communities, in the states, and the countries that they live in. So we try and keep it fun, right? We have some fun stuff to talk about today. We're going to be talking about Kanye later today because he apparently had a huge concert last night at SoFi Stadium. You can usually spot most links by the fact that it doesn't have the S. For dark web, as I were talking, yeah, I'm not running Tor. I really don't want the CIA spying on me. We covered something last week about how the fact that if you use a VPN, you're actually a target for NSA monitoring, and they will track your IP address through your ISP, which is pretty shitty and terrifying. Pretty much goes against the entire point of having a VPN. So yeah, no dark web stuff here. We're not going to be doing any dark web things. Maybe we might read an article about it at some point in the future if something happens worth covering. Are you a Fed? Do we have a Fed in the chat? Why don't you do something really crazy and we'll go in via Tor? So a long time ago I had Tor and I went on once and I went to a few links and I was too scared and I got off it. I didn't want to be there. Of course. All right, Dexter the Fed. Welcome to chat. Thanks for being here. Okay, so we're going to talk about this first story is how the United States is utterly wrong about the arsenal in Iran, which is still intact. Sources are telling us that recent U.S. intelligence assessments found roughly half of Iran's missile launchers are still intact, and that thousands of one-way attack drones are still in Iran's arsenal tonight. That's despite daily U.S. and Israeli airstrikes. Let's watch this video from Caitlin Collins.
The CNN exclusive report, as sources are telling us here tonight, that recent U.S. intelligence assessments found roughly half of Iran's missile launchers are still intact, and that thousands of one-way attack drones are still in Iran's arsenal tonight. That's despite daily U.S. and Israeli airstrikes that we've seen against Iranian military targets for the past 5 weeks. And I should note, this assessment that my colleagues are reporting on tonight might include launchers that are currently inaccessible, such as those that are buried by strikes or not just completely destroyed. The intelligence, though, does offer a more nuanced picture that we're getting of Iran's capabilities that they still have right now than what we have heard from the White House since the beginning of this war. Joining me tonight is Sue Gordon. We have some breaking news for you tonight.
So every day we're hearing that Iran has been decimated, their army is decimated, their navy is decimated, their air force is decimated. There's completely, any other, Caroline Leavitt saying any other retaliation or any type of aggression or, defensive actions from Iran just is signaling that they don't understand that they've lost the war already. Yet, the Strait of Hormuz remains closed. There are still drone attacks being carried out on U.S. Military bases in our foreign allies countries like Kuwait, UAE, Saudi Arabia. We just lost two AWACS last week, or one AWAC last week, and then there was a helicopter that was blown up last night by a drone. So we have not destroyed them. We have not decimated them. They are still very active. And they're basically just trying to tell us this, as we've talked about before, is to ease the markets, try and get the American people on their side, and to support the war. And we saw a poll that 75% of Americans believe we're winning the war. Based on the information that is coming out from the White House and the Pentagon, and some of the soft cover that mainstream media is running for the State Department. Along with, that brings us to our next one, casualty cover-ups. So we know, based on sourcing, and a report from the Intercept, that they are not fully reporting the total amount of losses that are happening to U.S. troops in Iran and in the Middle Eastern region. Let's go ahead and read this. Almost 750 troops have been wounded or killed in the Middle East since October 2023, an analysis by The Intercept has found, but the Pentagon won't acknowledge it. U.S. Central Command, or CENTCOM, which oversees military operations in the Middle East, appears to be engaged in what a defense official called a casualty cover-up, offering The Intercept lowball and outdated figures and failing to provide clarifications on military deaths and injuries. At least 15 U.S. troops were wounded Friday in an Iranian attack on a Saudi airbase that hosts American troops, according to two government officials who spoke with The Intercept. Hundreds of U.S. personnel have been killed or injured in the region since the U.S. launched a war on Iran just over a month ago. President Trump, who wore a blue suit, red tie, and a ball cap to the dignified trance for the first Americans killed in the war, said casualties were inevitable. When you have conflicts like this, you can always have death, he said afterward. I met the parents, and they were unbelievable people. But they all had one thing in common. They said to me, one thing, every single one, finish the job, sir. Please finish the job. They're literally watching their children be, or significant others, be brought back in caskets, and they're like, hey, Donnie, keep attacking Iran, man. We're right behind you here. I fucking highly doubt that. I highly fucking doubt that. On Tuesday, Trump teased that he would wind down the war with Iran in as little as 2 weeks, despite not achieving many of his stated aims, which, such as freedom for the people of Iran, right? We talked about, or they mentioned a lot of it was, the whole point of this was liberation for the Iranian people. I mean, it's utter bullshit. We're destroying their infrastructure. We're leveling entire villages and towns, destroying apartment buildings, attacking bridges, which is a war crime. If we wanted them to be liberated, why would we destroy all the things that they would need to use in order to fully liberate themselves after our withdrawal from the area? Which, if that's the stated intent, we took out their Ayatollah. Why are we still there, right? We said it wasn't regime change. Then we said it was regime change. We said it wasn't about the oil. Then we said, well, it is about the oil. And then we said it's not. It's about liberation, but we're destroying all the infrastructure. So nothing that these people say are true, or they just don't report it at all, right? They just don't even say it. We're just lying by omission. He's stated aims such as freedom for the people, taking the oil in Iran, and forcing Iran's unconditional surrender. At one point, the president even declared that the war would last as long as necessary to achieve our objective of peace throughout the Middle East and indeed the world. Of course, in all caps, because he's a boomer-ass bitch. CENTCOM has sent outdated statements on casualty numbers meanwhile, resulting in undercounts, including a statement sent Monday from spokesperson Captain Tim Hawkins, noting that since the start of Operation Epic Fury, approximately 303 U.S. service members have been wounded. The comment was 3 days old and excluded at least 15 wounded in the Friday attack on Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia. The command did not reply to repeated requests for updated figures. CENTCOM also would not provide a count of troops who have died in the region since the start of the war, and intercept analysis puts the number at no less than 15. This is quite obviously a subject that War Secretary Pete Hegseth and the White House want to keep under major wraps, said the defense official who spoke on the condition of anonymity in order to speak frankly. In 2024, during the Biden administration, the Pentagon provided the Intercept with detailed chronologies of attacks on U.S. bases in the Middle East that listed the specific outpost that was attacked, the type of strike, and whether or how many casualties resulted, along with an aggregate count of attacks by country. The Trump administration's numbers, by comparison, lack detail and clarity. The current CENTCOM casualty figures do not appear to include more than 200 sailors treated for smoke inhalation or otherwise injured due to a fire that raged aboard the USS Gerald R. Ford that they blamed on an overflow of lint in the laundry room, which is bullshit, because then Trump even came out during a speech and said that it was attacked. I don't think he knows even what actually happened. Before it limped off to Sauda Bay in Greece for repairs, CENTCOM did not reply to close to a dozen requests for clarification on the casualty count and related information sent this week. CENTCOM and the White House should be providing accurate and timely information on the costs and casualties involved in this war. After all, it is American taxpayers who are funding it, and U.S. economic prosperity and economic well-being that is being undermined by it. Jennifer Kavanaugh, the director of military analysis for defense priorities, a think tank that advocates for measured U.S. foreign policy, told The Intercept. As the U.S. has relentlessly bombed Iran, that country has responded with attacks on U.S. bases across the Middle East using ballistic missiles and drones. CENTCOM refuses to even offer a simple count of U.S. bases that have been attacked during the war. We have nothing for you, a spokesperson told The Intercept. An analysis by The Intercept, however, finds that bases in Bahrain, Iraq, Jordan, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Syria, and the UAE have been targeted. On Tuesday, Hegseth said that Iran retained the ability to retaliate for U.S. strikes, but that their attacks would be ineffectual. Yes, they will still shoot some missiles, he said, but we will shoot them down. On Wednesday morning, officials in Bahrain, Kuwait, and Qatar all reported missile or drone attacks from Iran. Iranian strikes have forced U.S. troops to retreat from their bases to hotels and office buildings across the region. They've taken out effectively 13 different bases that have been rendered inoperable. According to two government officials, the defense official was livid about the Pentagon's failure to adequately harden the bases and ridiculed Hegseth's Tuesday prayer at a Pentagon press conference. May God watch over all of them each day and each night. May his almighty and eternal arms of providence stretch over them and protect them. How about the eternal arms and providence of the $1 trillion defense budget that you have at your disposal to use and to make these bases so that when they're hit by $20,000, $15,000, $10,000 drones from Iran, that they're still usable? How about that? How about instead of just wasting our fucking money and praying to God in your little prayer, that's going to harden the base and make it usable again. I mean, are you fucking kidding me? Why didn't Hegseth protect them? The defense official asked. Anyone with a brain knew these attacks were coming. Pentagon spokesperson Kingsley Wilson did not respond to multiple requests for comment. Retired General Joseph Votel, a former head of Central Command, recalled that U.S. troops in the region have faced drone attacks for at least a decade. At that time, we identified a need to protect against this threat, and it has taken far too long for the DoD to respond and provide adequate protection for our deployed troops. So we even knew about this threat of the drones from Iran. I mean, we've known that they've been supplying Russia with these drones on the front line in the fight against the Ukraine. And yet, we have continuously failed our audit of the Pentagon year over year for the last 8 years. And we're not even using the money that we do have to prepare and plan against attacks that we knew were imminent, that we knew would happen if we were to go out and attack Iran. We knew that they would do this. And we're like, nah, it's okay. Just get rid of those bases. Just let them become inoperable. That's fine. We're okay with it. We can always get more money. We'll just steal it from the American people. We'll just take it from their health care. We'll just take it from their benefit programs, their safety net programs, or as the Republicans label them, entitlement programs to manufacture consent for the further plundering of any type of socialist safety net programs that are out there, right? SNAP, WIC, all this stuff. It was a known expectation that if attacked, Iran would retaliate against our bases, installations, and forces. And I agree that we should have anticipated and been prepared for this inevitability. Kavanaugh, who previously called attention to the vulnerability of U.S. outposts in the Middle East, echoed Votel. It has been clear for years that the rapid proliferation of drones and cheap missiles would put U.S. bases and U.S. early detection radars in the region at risk. Yet the Pentagon did little to protect them. Right? Let's go back to the $1.1 billion early detection radar system that was destroyed in the earlier weeks of the war in Yemen, I believe, in Qatar. A $1.1 billion radar station just decimated, and we're just like, okay, whatever, it's fine. The failure to invest in hardened infrastructure was a choice. Congress should see this failure as evidence that simply giving the Pentagon more money is not a path to national security, right? You have to have accountability for this budget, right? Just throwing money at the problem doesn't work. We constantly throw money at the cops, and yet crime rates go up. When we take money away from the police, crime rates go down, and when we invest back into the community, crime rates go down. Throwing money at the problem, looking at everything like from the perspective of, you know, I'm a hammer and every problem is a nail, it doesn't fucking work. We'd be better off if bases across the region were closed for good. In public statements, Iran's foreign minister Saeed Abbas Araghchi called out the U.S. for using civilians in nearby Arab monarchies of the Gulf Cooperative Council, the GCC, states as human shields. U.S. soldiers fled military bases in GCC to hide in hotels and offices, he wrote on X last week. Hotels in U.S. deny bookings to officers who may endanger customers. GCC hotels should do the same, 100%. Votel also expressed concern about troops using hotels and offices, noting it could turn normal civilian infrastructure into military targets for the regime. Now, that just proves our inability to differentiate between civilian infrastructure and military targets. Just because there are military targets does not give you the right as a state, as a nation, to attack civilian infrastructure. If you have credible information that civilian infrastructure is housing or protecting military assets, it is your job as the military, as the defense, as the War Department, to coordinate targeted operations that minimize civilian casualties. You can't just bomb the fucking building because you say that that military people are there, right? Like they did in Gaza. We're like, oh, well, there was Hamas in that ambulance. How do you fucking know? You don't fucking know. You're just making shit up in order to just decimate them, right? And in order to just continuously bomb them. Last month in Iran, an Iranian drone strike on a hotel in Bahrain wounded 2 War Department employees, according to a State Department cable reviewed by the Washington Post. CENTCOM did not respond to a request to confirm to the Intercept that those injuries stem from a March 2nd attack on the Crown Plaza Hotel, a luxury property in Manama, Bahrain's capital. But one official indicated this was likely. Vodal said that a failure to provide troops with adequate protection may handcuff U.S. operations. I think this really complicates command and control and could affect unit cohesion and effectiveness, he said. He told the Intercept, referring to the transfer of troops to hotels and office buildings. That said, we may not have many options if we cannot protect military bases where they would normally be bedded down. At least 15 U.S. troops in the Middle East have died since the beginning of the Iran war, including 6 personnel who were killed in a drone strike at Port Shuaibi, Kuwait, and a soldier who died due to an enemy attack on March 1st, 2026 in Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia. More than 520 U.S. personnel have been injured, including those who suffered smoke inhalation on the Ford. Prior to the current war with Iran, U.S. bases in the Middle East were increasingly targeted by a mix of one-way attack drones, rockets, mortars, and close-range ballistic missiles after Israel's war in Gaza began in October of 2023. Most of the attacks occurring in the year following the outset of the conflict. At least 175 troops were killed or wounded in those attacks, including 3 service members who died in January 2024. Strike on Tower 22, a facility in Jordan. Other attacks targeted Al Assad Air Base, the Baghdad Diplomatic Support Center, Camp Victory, Union 3, Erbil Base Center, and Bashur Air Base in Iraq, and Al Tanf Garrison, Deir Ez-Zor Air Base, Mission Support Site Euphrates, Mission Support Site Green Village, Patrol Base Shadadi, Rumelin Landing Zone, Tel Baidir, and Tal Tamir in Syria. Whew, I hope I got most of those remotely correct. The casualty statistics do not include contractors, most of them foreigners who suffered non-combat injuries. Official U.S. statistics show there were almost 1,290 cases of injuries to contractors in the CENTCOM area of operations during 2024 alone. More than 37 were the most serious non-fatal injuries, including traumatic brain injuries requiring more than 7 days away from work. 18 contractors were also killed, all of them in Iraq. The numbers are likely significant undercounts, but even if the fractional number of known contractor injuries is added to the tally, the casualty count for Americans and those on U.S. bases may top 13,600. So, they're not correctly reporting the damage and the effectiveness of the Iranian army, and they're also not properly reporting the casualties to the American military, casualties and deaths. Okay. So also this week, Hegseth signed a right to carry memorandum for U.S. military bases. I'm just gonna go ahead and open these because the rest of this is pretty much about Pete Hegseth and then the B-1 bridge bombing that happened yesterday. 1, 2, 3, 4. last one didn't open. No, undo. How do I do undo? There we go. I can use computers. I'm so good at technology. All right, so this is from Pete Hegseth on Thursday. Our military installations have been turned into gun-free zones, leaving our service members vulnerable and exposed. That ends today. The same day that Hegseth fires multiple senior Army leaders, he announces that individuals trusted by the administration will be able to carry arms on base. On the same day, Trump is purging his cabinet. This feels like coup level shit. Let's watch this video.
Our great republic was founded on a simple yet bold idea. Our rights as citizens.
Real quick. The only people allowed to carry guns on military bases are MP, military police.
Are not granted to us by government, but instead by God. 250 years ago, the Revolutionary War was fought to secure our God-given rights. The Second Amendment to our Constitution enshrines the right of all citizens to carry weapons to protect themselves, their families, and their fellow countrymen.
Okay, clear distinction between military personnel and civilians. Okay? You even have military personnel when they come back from war returning to civilian life, right? Is a saying that they have used in the past. Returning to civilian life. There is a clear distinction between military service and civilian life, okay? So he's right now conflating the two together, and this is the person who runs our military, essentially.
The War Department's uniform service.
He's also not big on the separation of church and state, so this guy clearly doesn't understand how to differentiate between various states of being, right?
Service members are trained at the highest and unwavering standards. These warfighters, entrusted with the safety of our nation, are no less entitled to exercise their God-given right to keep and bear arms than any other American. Our warfighters defend the right of others to carry. They should be able to carry themselves. Recent events like what happened at Fort Stewart, Holloman Air Force Base, or Pensacola Naval Air Station have made clear that some threats are closer to home than we would like. In these instances, minutes are a lifetime, and our service members have the courage and training to make those precious short minutes count. Before today, it was virtually impossible. Most people probably don't know this. It was virtually impossible for War Department personnel to get permission to carry and store their own personal weapons aligned with the state laws where we operate our installations. I mean, effectively, our bases across the country were gun-free zones. Unless you're training or unless you are a military policeman, you couldn't carry, you couldn't bring your own firearm for your own personal protection onto post. Well, that's no longer. The memo I'm signing today directs installation commanders to allow requests for personal protection to carry a privately owned firearm with the presumption that it is necessary for personal protection.
From who? Personal protection from who? Your fellow military service members? Who are you protecting from? If there's an attack on a United States military base, there are barracks and there are military police that are able to respond to that situation, just like in civilian life. So, who is he exactly talking about protecting themselves from? We'll get to that in a second.
If a request is for some reason denied, the reason for that denial will be in writing and will explain in detail the basis for that direction. Again, the presumption is service members will be able to have their Second Amendment right on post. Not all enemies are foreign, nor are they all outside our borders. Some are domestic. Confirming your God-given right to self-protection is what I'm signing into action today.
Now, that last statement is the key part to this, okay? not all terrorism, because that's just the word they use for everything, happens outside of the United States or is from outside of the United States coming in, right? It's not an external threat. Sometimes it's an internal threat. But who are they deeming as domestic terrorists? Alex Preddy, Renee Good, Antifa, right? So this is anybody, could be anyone within the ranks that says, I don't agree with that order. I don't agree with this. I think you're wrong about that. Even to fellow service members, right? Not even speaking up the chain, right? Because that's kind of, that's definitely frowned upon within the military. You have your station and you stay in that station, right? You don't speak out of turn. You can get reprimanded for that, right? People don't want to deal with that shit. So who are they talking about? They're talking about dissent within military bases. They're talking about anybody who decides, I'm not going to follow this unlawful order. Okay, well, now I'm going to pull my gun out and I'm going to threaten you with physical action. I'm going to brandish a weapon in order to be like, you're going to follow this command or I'm going to have you arrested and labeled as a domestic terrorist. Now, let's get to this next part. Pete Hegseth just fired Army Chief of Staff General Randy George, effective immediately during an active war. A Fox News national security analyst, a retired U.S. Marine, just said live on air, this is a big deal. Hegseth has now removed over a dozen flag and general officers, including General C.Q. Brown, chairman of the Joint Chiefs. That's huge. Admiral Lisa Franchetti, Chief of Naval Operations. General Krause, Head of Defense Intelligence Agency. General Randy George, Army Chief of Staff, and 2 additional generals fired today. Firing a general during wartime is nearly without precedent in American history. Now, I don't know how true that is. I'm sure it's happened before. I don't know all of the cases in which it has happened in the past. The 82nd Airborne is deploying to the Middle East for potential ground operations. The Army Chief of Staff, who would oversee those troops, is gone. His replacement, a Hegseth loyalist installed with no Senate confirmation. Hegseth previously fired the DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, head after his agency said U.S. strikes were less effective than Trump claimed. The generals who might say no are being systematically replaced with generals who won't. April 6th is 4 days away. April 6th being the deadline that Trump set for, he said, 10 days. And then they're going to start bombing their civilian infrastructure. We have already been bombing their civilian infrastructure, right? And we'll cover that in just a second. The newest one that happened yesterday, I believe. Let's watch this little video here.
This time from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. He has asked Army Chief of Staff General Randy George to leave his post. George is the Army's most senior general. A defense official says Hegseth asked General George to retire immediately. Now, the ouster comes as the U.S., of course, is battling Iran. Joining me now is Hal Kempfert, a familiar face around here, and on Live Now, a national security analyst, also a retired U.S. Marine. Thank you, and thank you for your service. Let's just get your reaction to this. Is this really a big deal?
Well, Marla, it's a deal. I mean, normally when you become a service chief or chairman of the Joint Chiefs or the vice chair, normally those are 4-year terms. That is not set in stone. That can change, and certainly we've seen a lot of changes. You know, with Pete Hegseth as Secretary of War or Secretary of Defense, he's removed about a dozen flag and general officers. Of course, you may recall he removed C.Q. Brown, Air Force General, who was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs when he came in. He also, Lisa Franchetti, who was the CNO, Admiral, head of the Navy, Chief of Naval Operations. And then, of course, General Cruz, Lieutenant General Cruz, head of DIA, and others have been removed as well. So they're not afraid of removing flag and general officers, but this is still a big deal.
So, yeah, it's a big deal.
And we're
all
back.
they really care about
So we have
is installing people who are going to say yes. That are going to follow Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump's commands unwaveringly. Right? They're going to do it without even thinking about it. Okay? So here, this is a retired U.S. Major General going live on TV and explicitly calls Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth a potential war criminal. We already know this, right? He confirms that the Pentagon's plan to bomb Iranian civilian infrastructure is a blatant violation of international law. The Hague is waiting. So, like we've said before, we are only subject to the international laws we decide to subject ourselves to, okay? We don't support the Hague. We didn't sign on to the Commission of the International Criminal Court, okay? We don't follow their laws. We don't give a shit about their referendums. We don't give a shit about what they say as far as like who's a war criminal, who's not, all right? We have a law. I'm going to pull it up. Here we go. We'll read on the Wikipedia page, okay? The American Service Members Protection Act, the ASPA, known as the Hague Invasion Act, okay? Enacted in August of 2nd, 2002. Huh. What was going on in 2002? What were some of the things that we were doing to the people of Iraq? To the people of Afghanistan? We were about to enter in to the war, but we were already conducting limited military actions over there, i.e. war crimes. Okay? The United States federal law describes as a bill to protect United States military personnel and other elected and appointed officials of the United States government against criminal prosecution by an international criminal court to which the United States is not party. Okay? The text of the ASPA has been codified as subchapter 2 of Chapter 81 of Title 22 U.S. Code, whatever. The act gives the president power to use all means necessary and appropriate to bring about the release of any U.S. or allied personnel being detained or imprisoned by, on behalf of, or at the request of the ICC, located in The Hague, Netherlands. So, you try and hold us account? We will invade The Hague. We will kill people if we have to rescue United States personnel or government officials being held there. Okay? And you best fucking believe that if Benjamin Netanyahu, if the ICC gets their way and they are able to bring him in because they have put out a warrant for his arrest as a war criminal, if they're able to bring him in, there's a good chance we'll go in and try and get him out. Now, I don't know if I can't say that we would do that for sure. I don't know the likelihood of that. But it is a possibility because, you know, Benjamin Netanyahu is pretty much a United States government official. All right, so let's watch this video.
General, I wanted to give you the final thought about the adherence to international law, because as we were talking about, the Iranian state TV is offering those bounties on Americans if any Iranian residents find that service member, to hand them over to Iranian security forces. And we juxtapose that with what we are hearing from our Secretary of Defense and our president, who is threatening to bomb power plants. We've already seen him bomb a bridge. We're hearing the Secretary of Defense saying effectively the rules of war don't apply to the way he's conducting this war. I'm just curious to get your thoughts on how you view what now is the perilous situation our service member finds himself in, and the rhetoric coming out of our own administration.
All of our military personnel are in greater risk than they have ever been before in terms of any other previous administration. We have a Secretary of Defense who has actually stated words in his speeches and in writing that are literally the words of potential war criminals. Even if the president pardons him for these things, The Hague will eventually come to get him.
No, they won't. No, they won't. We just saw ASPA, the Hague Invasion Act. We will not let even a Democratic majority in Congress that wants to see Hegseth resign, impeached, held accountable, charged with war crimes in the United States. If the ICC levied a warrant against him, I guarantee you the Democrats would still not allow him to be transferred to The Hague, right? That's just not going to happen. So this is a bit of an empty threat. I think it's a bit of saber rattling, right, to be like, whoa, this is going to happen. This could happen. It's not going to fucking happen.
It's very disheartening whenever the Secretary of Defense, who we're supposed to look up to for guidance and counsel.
Everything else he said, though, was correct. They are at the highest threat level and possible casualty or, active violence. They are at a very dangerous point right now, and that is in part due to P. Hegseth.
Counsel and strategy is saying things about show no quarter, which by its quote is prohibited and defined in U.S. law as a war crime. The idea of attacking infrastructure that affects civilians is a war crime. So it goes on, and our military members start to question, what are we doing here if we're attacking, for example, a bridge under construction? It just doesn't make any sense in terms of what are the military objectives, which seem to keep changing on a regular basis. And if you don't have military objectives, and then when success has been achieved, that means all you're going to do is get further and further involved in this warfare, and it's going to go worse and worse for the United States and for the American public in terms of the oil prices, just as an example.
So what he's referring to there is the airstrike, the U.S.-Israeli airstrike on the B-1 bridge in Karaj. So far, the death toll has risen to 13 people and approximately 95 people wounded. The attack, which occurred on Thursday, April 2nd, targeted a major suspension bridge, one of the tallest in the Middle East, and was still under construction at the time. Iranian state media report that a second double tap strike hit the area as rescue workers and civilians were responding to the initial blast. New footage of that strike circulated yesterday. So this is a pretty in-depth video of what happened, and they even slow it down so you can see exactly the type of munitions and how many hit this area. Now, this is already hit, right? This cloud is from the first attack. It was under construction, and the United States were like, oh, but the IRGC was using it to transport arms. How would they use a bridge that's under construction to transport arms? That doesn't make any sense. And bombing bridges is literally against the Geneva Convention, right? As it says down here. More on the bombing of the B-1 bridge and the Stone Age, right? That's what we said we're going to send them back to. The U.S. defense official told Axios the bridge was attacked because it was used by an Iranian armed forces to try to secretly move missiles and missile parts from Tehran to launch sites in western Iran. The official claimed the missile parts were sent in large boxes and crates across the bridge and assembled at the launch sites. According to the official, the bridge was also used to send logistical support to Iranian military forces in Tehran. A second defense official described it as a planned military supply route for sustaining Iran's ballistic missile and attack drone force, but did not say it was currently being used for those purposes. The first official may be misinforming Axios, since according to Gadratola Seif, the deputy governor of Al-Borz province, and many others, the bridge was not complete or yet being used. The second official is openly advocating attacks on all transport routes as legitimate since they are potential dual-use targets, Who knows whether first official knowingly lied or the second official has read the Geneva Convention. 7 dead on a nearby picnic. Okay, above all, this is not the route to de-escalation. So let's watch this video. Ooh, very loud. Got the slow-mo. 1, 2, 3, 4. Whoever is filming this is an absolute machine. Oh, 5, 6, 7. Seven missiles after they had already attacked it the first time. So a huge barrage to try and take out this bridge that wasn't even, according to Iran, even being used because it was not complete. It was under construction. And the last thing about Iran I want to talk to you about today is ongoing coverage of the media's deliberate attempts and actions to either run cover, manufacture consent, and or use passive language to minimize things that are happening in the war, either between Israel and Lebanon, or between the United States and Iran, or Iran and the other countries and military bases that it's been attacking, right? So this is a line from the New York Times. Now, we're never not going to not read the New York Times. We're never not going to look at Fox News, CNN, Axios, MS Now, NPR. These are all still very useful tools. You just have to know how to read them. You just have to be able to parse the information out that is accurate and that is useful to you, right? That's not saying picking and choosing facts. It's understanding how to read what they're saying, right? So this is a perfect example. The New York Times is now describing Iran's very normal acts of self-defense, shooting down American jets that are bombing their fucking country, as an escalation from Iran's leadership, completely unhinged to publish stuff like this. So the quote says, augmenting people's anxiety are the recent escalations from Iran's leadership. This is like saying, when the boot is on your neck, it is up to you to act responsibly and not anger the oppressor or your aggressor. It's up to the person with their boot on their neck to be like, you know what? We're going to remain controlled. We're going to remain reserved here. We're not going to go ahead and shoot down your planes or bomb your air your defense bases in our neighboring countries, or what have you. Whatever they feel they need to do to retaliate in defense, right? And all of this, obviously, they mentioned there was a F-15 that was shot down yesterday. I believe they're still looking for the second military personnel that was involved in that crash. They saved one so far that I know of. But I don't think they found the second one yet. Okay, so let's move on to Lebanon. We've got updated numbers, bridge destruction, do not hide Muslims, home destruction, Catholic priest killed, and the Liberation Armed Forces withdraw from southern Lebanon. That's got Lindsey Graham all up in his britches. This is from Steve Sweeney. Obviously, this comes out from the Ministry of Health in Lebanon. The latest in the wounded and killed. 1,368 killed, 4,138 wounded. This includes 125 children, 91 women, and 1,152 men killed. Today, 23 were killed, 98 wounded, with more than 1.2 million displaced, 370,000 of them children, according to UNICEF. Awesome. We're doing great work here, y'all. Due to Hezbollah's activities and the transfer of terrorist elements to southern Lebanon under the auspices of the civilian population, the IDF is forced to carry out a broad and precise targeting of Hezbollah's terrorist activities. Accordingly, and to prevent the transfer of reinforcements and combat equipment, the IDF intends to attack the Samar Mashgara bridges. For your safety, you must continue moving to the area north of the Zahrani River and refrain from any movement south that may endanger your life. So this is a statement put out by the IDF warning people of a displacement notice to keep moving north, right? They wanted to create the new border at the Litani River. Now they're trying to push even farther north to the Zahrani River. Targeting bridges and other civilian infrastructure is a war crime. From our favorite on-the-ground correspondent right now in Lebanon, Courtney Bonneau. The Israeli army spokesthing has announced that they will target yet another bridge that connects the south to the rest of Lebanon. Earlier today, an Israeli drone targeted worshippers as they were leaving a local mosque in the town of Safmor, the same area as the targeted bridge, killing 2 people and injuring 11 others. This is terrorism, and American tax dollars are paying for it. And you also have this coming out from the IDF, or the IOF, the occupying force. Israel's message to a broad swath of Lebanon: Shiites must go. Israel has issued sweeping evacuation warnings and pressed some Christian and Druze leaders to expel Shiite Muslims from southern towns. Okay? The way that the IOF is portraying this is like, oh, we're going in here right now to control and decapitate Hezbollah. Okay? Hezbollah was created in direct retaliation to the initial occupation of Israel in southern Lebanon from 1982 to 2002 or so. Then they said it's not about religion, right? We're not attacking Christians. Christians are very safe, yet they're bombing 1,500-year-old churches, and they're killing priests. Right? We'll get to that in a second. But now they're directly saying, do not hide. Do not hide Shiite Muslims in your homes. We will find them. We will come find them. I mean, this is Nazi shit, dude. This is straight up Gestapo Nazi shit, hunting down Jews during the Holocaust. Okay? This is all about the IOF persecuting, hunting, and ridding the land of Muslims. Okay? And they've explicitly said that they're doing this. Behind the scenes, Israeli officials have conveyed a more targeted message. In private calls to local leaders across southern Lebanon, Israeli military officials have assured several Christian and Druze communities that they could remain in the evacuation zone. They have pressed them, however, to force out any Lebanese from neighboring Shiite Muslim communities who have sought refuge. Among them, Israeli bombardment flattened Shiite towns. According to local Christian, Druze, and Shiite leaders who spoke to the New York Times, the Shiites make up a majority of southern Lebanon. So this is religious and ethnic cleansing. They are not targeting Christian and Druze communities. They're not targeting any Jewish civilians that live in these areas. They're only going after Muslims, specifically Shiite Muslims, because that's the sect of Islam that makes up the majority of those that live in Lebanon, right? You have the three main sects of Muslim, of Islam: Shiite, Shia, and why can't I think of the third one? Shiite, Shia, and someone help me out. What's the third one? It's on the tip of my tongue. I don't know why I can't get it out. Shiite, Shia, and fuck. That's not the third one. But I forgot what the third one is. I can't think of it off the top of my head. Anyway, straight up Nazi shit, dude. This is straight up Nazi shit. And this comes after the Knesset literally signed into law the ability for the Israelis to just straight up kill Palestinians for you know, what they perceive as violent terrorist activities, which is, I mean, living in your town, living in your home. If you refuse to leave your house and defend your land in the West Bank, you're more likely to get sentenced to death than someone who comes into your house to take your land away from you. God, that's gonna bother me in my head. What is the other sect of Islam? Shiite, Shia, Sunni. Got it. Ha ha ha. All right. Here we have another video from Al Jazeera. Terrifying reality check on Al Jazeera. Israel systematically detonating and completely destroying entire civilian towns and homes across southern Lebanon. This is not a war. It is a deliberate campaign of ethnic cleansing and total erasure of Lebanese communities.
On today. Now, the other development, of course, is this continued destruction or detonation of homes, which is happening in towns and villages very close to that border region. Israel has signaled its intention to completely destroy many of these towns and villages, but it's not just the ones that are very close to the border. We're also seeing places like Naura. We've heard reports of the detonation of homes in that town as well, which is right on the coast on the Mediterranean Sea, and that's the focus of another axis that Israel is attempting to push forward.
Now, you see this bulldozer here, or you know, whatever the fuck you call this front loader, or whatever. Caterpillar. Washington State, we covered the other day. Washington State is the first state officially to divest from any Caterpillar contracts. And they are essentially boycotting because these have been used all across Lebanon, the West Bank, Palestine, to essentially knock down these homes. And Caterpillar is pretty much not supplying, but allowing them to have these tools to ethnically cleanse the land. If I owned a company, if I owned Caterpillar construction equipment company, and I saw my shit being used for this, I'd be like, nah, dude, no. If you have any of my equipment, you bought it from a third-party seller, and I'm going to use all of my means to buy it back from you and extract it from any purposes used for this. I don't understand how companies can look at this, and this is like free advertising, right, for them. In ethnic cleansing. Like, what? Why would I want my name on that, dude? Why would I want my name on that? Oh, this wasn't done yet. Sorry.
Forward deeper into southern Lebanon. They've been attempting
What's up, everybody?
To move into Naura, but also a couple of key towns. We're looking at Shema and also Ras Bayada a little bit further up the coast there, where they're attempting to make progress. But we have once again seen a number of statements from Hezbollah saying that they're targeting Israeli troops with drones, missiles and rocket fire, both inside Lebanon, attempting to prevent that advance from continuing, but also targeting Israeli settlements inside Israel and troop movements and bases over the border as well.
Hey, oh, you're aren't you from the raid I had on or the what channel are you coming from? I'm sorry, how do you pronounce your name? JRZTXN. Nice to have you here. Welcome to chat. Welcome to the stream. Oh, yeah, Gus. Right. Thanks for stopping by. How's it going today? Jersey Texan. Oh, okay. That's quite a combo. No, were you born in Jersey and then you moved to Texas? I'm doing well, but we're covering people who are not doing so well. We're currently talking about Lebanon. Bingo. Okay. I would then, if I had to go by your name, I'm a New Yorker Carolinian. I don't know how you would put that, but I'm from New York. Man, Texas got a big change from Jersey. Big change. We're practically cousins. That's right. That's right. Okay, here we have heartbreaking footage from the funeral of Maronite Catholic priest Father Pierre al-Rahi in Kwalaya, southern Lebanon. He was killed by Israeli occupation forces in a reported double tap strike while rushing to help wounded civilians. Courtney is one of the few foreign war correspondents actually on the ground in southern Lebanon right now, documenting events in real time. Everyone should go follow her for updates and unfiltered reporting from the front lines. We are big supporters of Courtney Bonneau over here. She is an indispensable resource on the ground in southern Lebanon. When we have the IOF double, triple striking Lebanese reporters on the ground in Lebanon. So let's watch this quick little clip from Courtney. It's probably going to be loud.
I'm reporting to you from the town of Kalea on Lebanon's southern border from the funeral of the priest Pierre al-Rahi. Al-Rahi was targeted and murdered by Israeli tank fires. He was tending to the wounded after the IOF opened fire on other residents of the town. They were targeted from the illegal Israeli occupation base on Hamamet Hill, which sits across from the town. Since the ceasefire began, the IOF have been terrorizing residents and conducting military operations from this illegal occupation point. Recently, al-Rahi made a statement. He said, "None of us carries weapons. All of us carry peace and goodness and love." I'm reporting to you.
Now, we just saw that they were talking about how they're not attacking. Oh, no worries, man. We'll be here for a few hours. They're not attacking. They're saying that Christians and Druze communities are protected and they're safe. Unless you get in our fucking way. Because then we will bomb you. We will shoot you with a tank. While you're trying to provide humanitarian aid to people who have already been wounded by military strikes in a civilian population. It's fucking crazy, this shit that we're allowing Israel to get away with in the name of safety, in the name of self-defense. Last thing here is from also from Courtney. We have a post here from Lindsey Graham to say that I've been disappointed in the Lebanese Armed Forces leadership under General Haikal and their willingness to take on Hezbollah is an understatement. Now the LAF is openly talking about abandoning Christian villages in the south, subjecting them to Hezbollah attacks, and trying to blame Israel. To the Lebanese government, this is a very dangerous decision, and you will be held accountable for the consequences of this decision if Christian villages are attacked by Hezbollah. The LAF, under the leadership of General Haikal, has been a tremendous failure when it comes to fighting Hezbollah. Fuck you, Lindsey Graham. So you're literally saying, he's trying to say that any attack on Christians, any attack on any of the armed forces in southern Lebanon is because of Hezbollah. Like Hezbollah is attacking their own people and not the IOF outwardly claiming, explicitly telling, we are conducting this operation to take the land and expel Muslims from the area. Yet Lindsey Graham, continuously running cover for Israel, is trying to paint this as a picture that Hezbollah is attacking their own citizens. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, and we know Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, Mike Huckabee, all of these current government officials and former government officials are, I mean, I guess they are all still current government officials, but are always happy to run cover for Israel. Okay. Lindsey knows that the LAF withdrew under American pressure. Lindsey knows this isn't a religious issue rather than a ruling class issue. Lindsey fancies himself part of the ruling class. Lindsey admittedly spends a lot of time in Tel Aviv. Lindsey Graham, senator from Tel Aviv. I will be with Israel until my dying day. To all of the isolationists, forget it. I'm not with you. I'm with Israel. Lindsey doesn't care about the almost 15% poverty rate amongst his own constituents in South Carolina, which disproportionately affects people of color. Lindsey is complicit in the ethnic cleansing of Lebanon, and I hope to see him on trial someday. He could have avoided this by taking care of his own people and stay in South Carolina where he belongs. I'll never understand why politicians feel the need to go to other countries, especially like in the Mamdani election. Where would you go after you were elected as mayor? And what? Most of them said Israel. As a New York mayor, why would you go to Israel? What point does that serve? Right? You should be focused on your constituents that live where you are their official, their government official, right? And Mamdani was the only one to say, well, I would stay in New York City and try and run New York City because that's my fucking job. That's what I'm asking people to elect me to do, right? So, all right, that'll cover our Lebanon coverage for today. We're going to, a couple of things out of Israel that I'd like to talk about. We have more settler violence in the West Bank. We have AI kill lists and the failure of the Iron Dome. So this is a video from the West Bank. Israel wants to live in peace with its neighbors is a line that they use all the time. It's the biggest lie of all time. This is the West Bank. No Hamas, no war, yet attacked like this daily by settlers backed by the IDF. A savagely violent Jewish supremacy armed by the EU, UK, and the United States. So I'm not sure what kind of shop this is. It looks like or it looks like tiles, maybe like for tiling your house or maybe roofing stuff. I'm not entirely sure, but these dudes come in and they just destroy this entire. This is state-sanctioned violence, by the way. Okay, the IDF supports these people. These are settlers, right? You're not going to see IDF soldiers doing this directly, but they're there protecting them in case the Palestinians in the West Bank decide to try and fight back, right? And he's just left in disbelief and absolute awe at the savagery. Now, all of this happens. His phone is still okay. His phone doesn't even get broken, which is pretty wild to me. He grabs it. I mean, they didn't even take it. They didn't even knock it off the fucking charger. He walks out to, I guess, confront them or see where they're going. But, I mean, absolute barbarism, dude. It's fucking unhinged, bro. UN reports more than 200 Israeli settler attacks against Palestinians in the occupied West Bank in the month of March alone. Roughly 7 attacks per day caused casualties or property damage or both and affected over 100 different Palestinian communities in the month. 22 of the 33 Palestinians killed by Israeli forces or settlers this year were killed in March, as attacks escalated with the launch of Israel's war on Iran.
Bank OCHA casualty figures for the first 3 months of this year indicate that 2 out of every 3 Palestinian fatalities occurring in the regional escalation on February 28th. In other words, 22 of 33 Palestinians killed by Israeli forces or settlers. In addition, you'll recall that 4 other Palestinians, all women, were killed in the West Bank by falling munitions during an Iranian missile attack. More than 200 settler attacks caused casualties or property damage in March, impacting over 100 Palestinian communities. That is about 6 attacks a day. We and our partners continue to support the health system in the West Bank, as well as families who've been displaced or otherwise affected. But to prevent further violence and reduce people's needs over time, Palestinians must be protected. Perpetrators must be held to account for these unlawful attacks, and policies driving such needs must be reversed.
100%, right? We know that the IDF line, the Israeli line, is that Hamas. Hamas is not in control in the West Bank, right? But yet, and possibly because they're not in control in the West Bank, they just go in, destroy these people's homes, destroy these people's businesses, kill them with little impunity. And if the Palestinians fight back now, especially now after they pass this law, and something were to happen to one of the Israeli settlers / terrorists that are doing these violent crimes to these people, gets killed, that Palestinian is more likely, 90%, 95% more likely to be found guilty, tried, and killed. Whereas these types of crimes, these things that are happening to the Palestinians in the West Bank, 1.5% of the time are they even convicted, right? That's 1.5% conviction rate. It's disgusting. So this is a good video from Channel 4. There were permissions to kill 300 people as collateral damage. Israeli intelligence whistleblowers exposed the non-human targeting system in Gaza, where strikes were approved in minutes. More than 70,000 people have been killed in Gaza since October 7th. So we know about the Hannibal Directive, right? And then there's what's the other one? It's like Find Daddy or something like that. It's got some creepy ass name, where they use intelligence information and feed it into AI algorithms that essentially coordinate their targets and tell them who to hit, where to hit, the likelihood that you're hitting a military asset. They're not even going off of human-sourced intelligence or human-based decisions. They're basically being told by AI, hey, you should hit this spot. And then they just do it, because they know that there's not going to be any type of accountability afterwards should they be wrong, right? Or later be proved as a war crime or whatever.
People's voices. I heard them crying.
There was permission to kill 300 people with collateral damage.
In the first few days of the war, the biggest tasks were creating what's called targets.
I'm going to go pee real fast.
The creation of targets was a challenge, because the Israeli government
Daddy's
said
Home.
it
Yes, no, that's exactly what it is.
law
Daddy's Home.
In
That's
which a
such
strike would be
creepy
prohibited
name, dude.
when the expected
It's so
incidental
fucked
loss
up.
of civilian life is excessive in relation to the direct military advantage.
They set up this thing called the target factory, just finding locations and finding people, basically, to assassinate.
There was an urge for extreme measures, so the convenient solution was to use non-human ways of creating targets, which is namely AI.
There were a number of different systems. One ascribed a threat probability to any individual between 1 and 100. Anyone over a threshold of, say, 90 could be targeted.
At some point, we were using an AI algorithm that gets a data set of people who are approved Hamas members and looks for people with similar attributes in general data sets of the entire Palestinian population.
In the previous rounds of violence, the number of civilian casualties deemed acceptable by the Israeli military had been much lower. A different decision was made for Gaza in 2023. These intelligence analysts accuse Israel of allowing collateral damage of 20 civilians for any approved target. But they go further.
For especially important targets, it could be even higher. So there was permission to kill 300 people with collateral damage.
Don't see the face of people if you like killing, you know. But the weird thing is that I did hear these people's voices, you know. And I was like, it's horrible to say this, but, you know, I heard them crying when the relatives were killed.
I think a lot of what technology gives us is that it blurs the reality for us to be able to not be completely responsible for what's going on.
All three intelligence analysts are no longer on duty in the Israeli army. By January 2026, an Israeli official briefed newspapers that they agreed there had been more than 70,000 deaths in strikes in the 2 years of the war. Whilst Israel's strategy was driven by human choices, the technology enabled the onslaught. The Israel Defense Force says the IDF does not use an AI system that identifies terrorist operatives or tries to predict whether a person is a terrorist. Information systems are merely tools for analysts in the target identification process. The IDF operates in accordance with international law. Each strike undergoes an individualized case-by-case assessment evaluating anticipated military advantage against expected incidental civilian harm. Proportionality decisions are made based on the information available at the time of decision and not in hindsight.
So, we all remember Hind. What was her name? Hind Rajab. Was she carefully sourced? Was this four-year-old girl that was shot over 100-something fucking times, was she responsibly sourced, ethically sourced by human analysts? Fucking disgusting, bro. Fucking disgusting. All right, last thing to talk about with Israel, the Iron Dome. Costs about $100 million a year, so I don't understand why Israel can't fund it. They've got a $45 billion defense budget. So this is an interview between Mehdi Hassan from Zateo and Ro Khanna. He is not a senator. Is he a senator? I think he's I'm pretty sure he's in the House. Yeah, he's in the House of Reps. I've forgotten what state he's a rep of. What's going on? Come on. All right, here we go. Let's watch this video.
Saves lives in Israel. Some of your colleagues who are pro-Israel say that's the reason it should be funded, and they're very critical of AOC and people like yourself. Josh Gottheimer, very pro-Israel Democrat from New Jersey, he tweeted at AOC saying defensive military aid stops rockets aimed at innocent children and families, so why oppose it? He then accused her of singling out the Jewish people, saying they're the only people she doesn't want to protect. What is your response to that kind of criticism? To your own colleagues who say there'll be Jewish blood on your hands if you don't vote for this aid?
Well, no one is saying that Israel shouldn't be able to get Iron Dome. It costs about $100 million a year. So I don't understand why they can't fund it. They've got a $45 billion defense budget. $100 million is not that big in the consequence. I guess my view is that I have more respect for Rahm Emanuel, who's saying, okay, he's very, very pro-Israel, but he's saying that they can buy it, they can afford it. We should just argue the facts and not engage in kind of the sensational rhetoric.
You say no one's saying that they can't buy it. Actually, there are a lot of people saying they shouldn't be allowed to buy it. There are a lot of people.
That's different than there's a philosophical view, but they certainly could buy it in terms of the resources.
But they could buy it in terms of the resources. Yeah. But the U.S. Congress and the U.S. government could say we're not going to sell you this.
Correct.
We're not going to sell any weapons, offensive or quote unquote defensive, and we'll come back to whether it's defensive.
And they shouldn't, because it's a violation of the Leahy Law. It's a law that Congress passed to not sell weapons to countries or governments or militaries that are committing systemic war crimes. It's against our own laws, but yet for Israel, we look the other way.
To an apartheid state that is committing genocide. A country that is committing apartheid, that is committing genocide, the US government should not be selling it weapons. We don't sell weapons to Russia. There is an argument that says it is part of Israel's offensive arsenal. It allows Israel to wage war without consequence, without pushback. It lowers the cost of Israel going to war. A country that has attacked multiple countries in the region, Lebanon, Iran, Syria, Yemen, Qatar, Gaza. And they do that. They're able to get away with that because of Iron Dome.
They're able to get away with that because the United States policy has been a blank check. Why don't we try some things like not giving them military aid first? Why don't we say that they should not be given a green light? And so if you said to me that the United States actually had restricted aid, had restricted offensive weapon sales, and still there wasn't change, then there'd be an argument. But you're going to something that is the last case.
That's a fair point. You're saying try everything first. We haven't done anything. We can agree on that.
So yeah, you can watch the full thing. I believe you have to be a like a subscribing member or whatever of Zateo to watch the full video. They put a lot of these larger conversations on behind a paywall, understandably. Okay, we are going to move on from the Middle East directly, and everything else related to that is going to be kind of an indirect tie. Real quick, let's talk about Epstein. Since everything's been going on in Iran, the Epstein files have really taken a backseat in the media and in coverage. I wanted to talk about this on Tuesday and Thursday, but I didn't get time to talk about it. Why is the video player not working? Because Twitter is busted. Okay. So we have... over the last few years, there have been very large settlements from banks that did business with Epstein. And they were essentially sued by the victims and some other entities that were able to bring them to court. Every bank that touched Epstein's money has settled. JP Morgan, $290 million. Deutsche Bank, $75 million. And now Bank of America at $72.5 million. So $437 million in settlements just for doing business with Jeffrey Epstein, a known criminal, a known sex trafficker, and zero criminal charges against any banker. Okay, so they just get to do all this business. They get to use that money for collateral. They get to use that money for further investments and all that stuff. And then they're fine. They can just walk away from it. They just got to pay their fines, right? That's why there is a two-tier justice system in the United States. If you are able to pay the fine, then you don't have to go to jail, right? And so that's why you see a lot of these companies, as long as they can make a shit ton of money out of whatever scheme they're perpetrating, they can just pay the fine later, keep the money that they made in profit off the top, and everybody's fine. Everybody walks away hunky-dory. People are rich. It's a victimless crime. No, it's not, because you're extorting wealth from the lower class to the upper class. The people in the lower class don't get their fucking money back. The people at the top get their profits, and that money goes to the fucking government. So essentially, it's like a partnership between white-collar criminals that get to continue running their companies and the government. And then everybody else that had to pay in or lost money or whatever gets screwed, right? So they all knew who they were working with, yet they did nothing to stop it.
Let's begin this half hour with some checking your headlines here. Bank of America has agreed to pay victims of sex offender Jeffrey Epstein more than $72 million to settle a class action lawsuit. The settlement was filed in a New York federal court Friday, but still requires approval by the judge. Lawyers for hundreds of Epstein's sexual abuse victims say the bank overlooked signs his accounts were being used to facilitate his sex trafficking operation. A spokesperson for Bank of America denied the accusations, but said the agreement provides closure for the plaintiffs.
Hey, we already got Al Roker coming in to fucking thank us for watching today, and it's like 30 seconds behind. Now, it says that money is going to go to the that settlement money is going to go to the victims. Let's see. Likely. Oh, can't type. Likelihood. Oh, I spelled likelihood. Likelihood. Victims get settlement money after lawsuits. I just want to see if there's like information. Oh, okay. So just erased everything I typed in. What the fuck? What the hell was that? All right. Well, whatever. I don't think they're going to get the money. I don't think they're going to get a huge payout. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. I don't know how many victims were even a part of this lawsuit against Bank of America. But so far, $400 and almost $500 million has been paid out by these banks. I haven't heard of any of these people getting the money. I hope they do. I hope they get every fucking cent. And I would also like to see the bankers serve some fucking time, but we all know that's not going to happen. So, okay, we're going to move on to Trump news. I feel like since I started this stream, I really haven't done much of like direct Trump news, but there's been a lot of Trump news this week as far as like reports coming out and different things. So we're going to cover oh no, don't do that. We're going to cover the UAE conflict of interest, right? Contradictions, defense budget, Susie Wild warned advisors against keeping the rose-colored glasses on, and then we'll go down to we'll start talking about. Actually, I'll open this one too because this one has directly ties to Trump, and then we'll start talking. We'll finish this up. We'll talk about Pam Bondi. Rest in piss. Rest in piss. Pam Bondi. Fuck that bitch. Okay. So here is a interview between George Stephanopoulos and the new acting Attorney General, who was the Deputy Attorney General under Pam Bondi, Todd Blanche. Both of which, speaking of conflicts of interest, both of which were personal lawyers for Donald Trump. Okay? In any other administration, you would have all of Congress in an uproar. You would have the media being like, oh my God, his personal lawyer is going to be the Attorney General? What a mess. But it's Trump. So we just let that shit slide, right?
Wall Street Journal overnight. I want to show the headline right now. It's the headline saying the spy sheik bought secret stake in Trump company, $500 million investment for 49% of world liberty came months before UAE won access to tightly guarded American AI chips. It's referring to the National Security Advisor to the UAE, Sheikh Tahnoon, and he made this investment just before President Trump was inaugurated. The article goes on to say the deal marks something unprecedented in American politics, a foreign government official taking a major ownership stake in an incoming U.S. president's company. This is the company of President Trump's family. Eric Trump is the president of the company. President Trump is listed as the founder emeritus, though he's not running it directly right now. How do you respond to those who say this is a serious conflict of interest?
I love it when these papers talk about something being unprecedented or never happening before, as if the Biden family and the Biden administration didn't do exactly the same thing, and they were just in office. So, look, I saw that article. I don't have a comment on it beyond President Trump has been completely transparent when his family travels for business reasons. They don't do so in secret. We don't learn about it when we find a laptop a few years later. We learn about it when it's happening.
Oh my God!
And so there's nothing unprecedented about the Trump organization going out and trying to make investments that basically all will come back to the American people and jobs in this country. And so this idea that there's something untoward or unprecedented is just a repeated story that isn't true. And I think that the American people know that. And the fact that we talk about unprecedented and this is something that doesn't happen is just not true. And it shouldn't be said by these so-called newspapers that are saying.
Ask you about
God damn, dude. He's fucking like, oh my God. Listen, Todd. If you suck his dick any harder, the skin's gonna come off. Okay? His nut is gonna come through the tip of his dick into your mouth. You gotta be fucking shitting me, dude. What the fuck? And this guy now is our Attorney General. Acting interim Attorney General, because he's most likely going to be replaced by Lee Zeldin from the EPA. Great. That's fantastic. We'll get into all of that in a little bit here. So a drone maker backed by President Donald Trump's two oldest sons is trying to sell the Gulf countries while they're under attack by Iran and dependent on the U.S. military led by their father. Okay. Let's open up this PBS article. Let's go over this real quick. It's not super long. I definitely support you on my phone. I'm not logged into like anything on here, PBS. Okay. A drone maker backed by President Donald Trump's two oldest sons. The sales drive by Florida-based Paurus, which announced a deal last month to bring aboard Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr., positions the company to potentially benefit from a war that their father began. Okay. So we just had Todd Blanche being like, the laptop. The laptop. The laptop. Meanwhile, their father started a war, and they're directly working with arms dealers in Florida. But this is, they did it. It's totally fine. There was a laptop. Oh my God. These countries are under enormous pressures to buy from the sons of the president, so he'll do what they want, said Richard Painter, a former chief White House ethics lawyer under President George W. Bush, who is not anywhere on the spectrum here of like an ethics standard, right? Okay, this is going to be the first family of a president to make a lot of money off war. That I don't think is necessarily true. A war he didn't get the consent of Congress for. I'm pretty sure the Bush family made a lot of money off the Iraq war, right? His father, George H.W. Bush, was trying to go after Saddam and the oil in Iraq for years. And when his son finally got the chance to go in and take him out again, even though Iraq wasn't even involved with 9/11, I'm sure they benefited. We just probably didn't find out because Dick Cheney and everyone who was running the fucking White House in the early 2000s was like a tiny bit more competent than Trump and his fucking cronies. Whereas like Todd Blanche wasn't completely wrong in that last clip. They are very transparent. They're very transparent on their incompetency and their cronyism and their the bribes, straight up fucking corruption in the government. They're very, very open about that. That's not a good thing, right? It's not a good thing that they're doing it, but it's also not a good thing for them because they are going to be held account. Either after they leave or maybe before he even leaves office. God willing, right? Inshallah. Paurus co-founder Brett Velikovich told the Associated Press that the company is making sales pitches that include drone demonstrations in several Gulf countries to show how its defensive drone interceptors could help them ward off Iranian attacks. Our team is doing many demos across the Middle East right now for our interceptors, Velikovich said in a text exchange. We have very incredible tech that can save lives. He declined to name the countries or give more details. The Trump brothers' deal with the power risk could give them sizable equity stakes. Their father, as commander-in-chief, launched the strikes with Israel against Iran over a month ago that began the war, the impetus for why these Gulf countries now need protection. Power risk denied there were any conflicts when the Trump brothers' stake was first announced. How? How are there not any conflicts when you have the President of the United States' sons directly benefiting from the war their father started? That makes zero sense. It's like when Howard Lutnick was given the waiver by the ethics lawyers in the White House to basically be like, no. It's fine. He started this tariff war, but he's totally allowed to benefit off of it by the fact that he gave the control of the company over to his sons who are like 21 and 22 or some shit. But that's totally fine because an ethics lawyer gave him a waiver. It's like, what is this, a fucking hall pass? Did you give me a bus pass so I can go over to my friend's house after school or some shit? That's not how this should work, right? Amen, Jersey Texan. Amen. We are at war, my friend. We are in an arms race, and America will lose if we don't build fast, says Velikovich, an Army veteran who had come under fire from the same Russian drones now being used by Iran. He added, "We should be thankful anyone is trying to invest in American manufacturing right now. The idea transcends politics. The president's oldest son have expanded their business interests beyond hotels and golf courses since their father took office again. The companies they've invested in have been named advisors for, with equity stakes, run the gamut from cryptocurrency ventures, right? And we've dismantled the SEC, so there's no guidance or direct oversight of cryptocurrency and the scams. It's like 60% of cases that were supposed to come up against these cryptocurrency scammers have been completely thrown out. The cases have just been dismissed completely. Prediction markets, federal contractors making rocket parts, and rare earth magnets. All things that have to do with the war, right? In every aspect. Predicting the war, building the war machines, and who gets to benefit from these government contracts, right? The latest Trump venture has its sights on a $1.1 billion set aside by the Pentagon to build up U.S. manufacturing base for armed drones to fill a hole left when the Trump administration banned such imports from China. The Trump organization, where the two sons are executives, didn't respond to a request for comment, but has dismissed claims of conflicts of interest in the past. The sons have said they didn't get credit for their restraint in expanding their businesses in their father's first term, so have decided not to hold back much this time. Asked about potential powers conflicts of interest, specifically, Eric Trump sent AP a statement last month saying, "I'm incredibly proud to invest in companies I believe in. Drones are clearly the wave of the future." Oh my God. Founded by U.S. Army Special Operations veterans about a year ago, Powerus makes drones for commercial uses, from spreading fertilizer to putting out forest fires. But it is bulking up fast to supply drones for military uses. The company recently raised $60 million from investors and hopes to tap additional financing by doing a reverse merger with a Trump company listed on the NASDAQ stock exchange that owns a few golf courses in Florida. Such a merger allows a private business to quickly go public by taking over a company that already has publicly traded shares, shortening the process of filing paperwork and meeting various requirements for a regular initial public offering. So, just gaming the system in every single possible way that benefits the Trump family. And you have Todd Blanche being like, it's fine. It's fine. The Bidens did it. It's fine. Bro, no, it's not okay that any family does it. If you are in a position of power such as the presidency, you are working for the people of your country. You are not working to enrich yourself. You are not working to enrich your family for when you leave office, right? And famously, Trump is like, oh, I take, what is it, like $1 a year in fucking income from being the president? Well, yeah, because you could just use your power and your influence to make billions of dollars. There are estimates that he's made $4 billion in the little over a year that he's been president in his second term. $4 billion. Are you fucking kidding me? Here we have some contradictions. A little video clip that I saved. It's very short. I thought this was pretty wild, right? Left, President Trump, regime change in Iran was not our goal. Right, President Trump, but we also want regime change in Iran. The two speeches were on the same day.
Regime change was not our goal. We never said regime change, but regime change has occurred. But we also won regime change. We have a regime change like nobody thought was possible. Regime change.
Man, this dude just standing up there yapping and shitting his pants. It's fucking nuts. I don't understand. Dude, that's how I feel every day. I want to give myself a concussion. Just pound my head into the desk. Exactly. What is that one? Is that like angry? What is that? I should make this bigger. That's a fun little emote. I can't wait to get my own emotes. I don't know how to do any of that stuff. Maybe someone can help me someday get the emotes. I don't know. Here's another contradiction between Trump and Marco Rubio.
Imagine in Iran that instead of spending their wealth, billions of dollars supporting terrorists or weapons, had spent that money helping the people of Iran, you'd have a much different country.
We have to take care of one thing, military protection. The United States can't take care of daycare. That has to be up to a state. We can't take care of daycare. We're a big country. We have 50 states. We have all these other people. We're fighting wars. We can't take care of daycare. It's not possible for us to take care of daycare. Medicaid,
is he going live today?
All these individual things.
Imagine in Iran that instead
of wild though. Isn't that wild though, dude? And Pete Hegseth said the same shit too. He was like, "Oh yeah, you know, Iran is a wild country, and they believe in oh, he's about to. Okay, cool. They believe in this like radical ideology, and therefore they can't have nuclear weapons. And they spent all of their money building up their military and not putting it towards their people. And it's like, bro, have you looked around the United States? Do you understand? Everyone is bitching at you for doing the exact same shit. And then you have Trump literally go on and be like, oh, we can't pay for daycare. We can't pay for health care. That's not possible. Right? Dumbass. Trump has proposed a $1.5 trillion defense budget, a 40% increase, the largest since World War II. In exchange for more war, he wants to cut the EPA budget by half, cut $10.7 billion for housing, cut $8.5 billion for K through 12 programs, cancel $15 billion for clean energy, cut $2.5 billion for clean drinking water, because that's not important. Eliminate 1.6 for youth job training, cut 3.5 billion from the Labor Department, eliminate 395 million for senior employment, eliminate 775 million for food assistant grants, eliminate the National Endowment for Democracy. That's not ominous at all. Cut $5 billion from the National Institute of Health, eliminate the Low Income Energy Assistance Program. In all, cuts to domestic programs would account for a 10% reduction in discretionary spending. Just so he can do more war, enrich his sons, enrich our Gulf allies, right? They're taking hits in the military installations that we have in their country, but all of these countries are benefiting from the people in power are benefiting from the energy crisis. The exploding cost of oil does nothing but generate more money for these countries that it's directly okay. All right, yeah, Jersey Tech, I'll raid his channel after this. I'll see y'all in a bit. Thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate you, man. Yeah, anyway, fucking craziness. Now this is something I brought up too earlier this week. I don't think, and it's clear, right? Based on what we know from some sources on the inside in the White House, that essentially Trump is getting like Instagram reel updates as far as like the war. So he's watching like CapCut video edits of like our best strikes or some shit. I don't fucking know. Susie Wiles has expressed concerns that aides are giving Trump a rose-colored view of how the war is being perceived domestically, telling Trump what he wanted to hear and urged them to be more forthright with the boss about the political and economic risks. Okay? So I said earlier this week, I don't think he's getting the clear view on any of these things, right? He's getting these edited video cuts, these compilations, but I don't think he's getting accurate information on a lot of issues. And that seems to be true in this Time article. It is pretty long. I don't know. Can we listen to it? No.
As I stated in my announcement of Operation Epic Fury, our objectives are very simple and clear. We are systematically dismantling the regime's ability to threaten America or project power outside of their borders. That means eliminating Iran's navy, which is now absolutely destroyed, hurting their air.
Random ass video at the bottom of the page. It was so loud. My lord. Donald Trump was in the Oval Office during the third week of the Iran war when a group of his most trusted advisors came to deliver some unwelcome news. His longtime pollster, Tony Fabrizio, had conducted surveys that indicated the war Trump launched was growing increasingly unpopular. Gas prices had surged past $4 a gallon. Stock markets had tumbled to multi-year lows, and millions of Americans were preparing to take to the streets in protest. 13 American service members had been confirmed killed. Some of Trump's key public supporters were criticizing a conflict with no clear end in sight. It fell on White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles and a small group of aides to tell the president that the longer the war dragged on, the more it would threaten his public support and Republicans' prospects in the November midterms elections. Now, I don't even understand how he thinks he has any type of like chance in the November elections to even realistically hold on to power, right? You have 36 members of Congress that are leaving office, okay? The last time that happened, it was like a net gain for Democrats in the opposing party of like 30 plus seats. We only need 3 to take majority in the House again. So, I mean, and if that happens, nothing is going to get done. Absolutely nothing is going to get done. I don't know as much about how many Senate seats are up right now. Or I know we only need like 3 or 4 seats in the Senate. I think it's 3 as well, to have a majority. Let's see. There we go. Ratio. Oh, wait. What is this? Oh, okay. Fucking AI, dude. Crazy. Okay. Republican senators, there's 53. And there's 45 Democratic senators. So, yeah, we'd have to... 2 independents. They usually caucus with the Democrats. That would be Bernie Sanders and I'm not sure. Is it Lisa Murkowski? I forget who the other independent is in the Senate. So that's like 47, right? Usually they caucus with the Democrats, so you could say 53 to 47. So yeah, we need 3 seats to get to a 50-50 split. So we need 4 seats to get the majority, right? And retain these 2 independents, which I don't think any independents are leaving this year. I think it's just Republicans. For Trump, the stark warning was unsettling. The president had begun many recent mornings watching video clips compiled by military officials of battlefield successes. According to a senior administration official, he has told advisors that being the commander-in-chief to eliminate the nuclear threat posed by Iran could be one of his signature achievements. But Wiles, according to 2 White House sources, was concerned aides were giving the president a rose-colored view of how the war was being perceived domestically, telling Trump that he wanted to hear what he wanted to hear instead of what he needed to hear. She had urged colleagues, the officials say, to be more forthright with the boss about the political and economic risks. The meeting reflected a reality the White House can no longer ignore. Time is running out before the president, his party, and the American public pay an even steeper price. Trump had promised to revive the economy and keep the U.S. out of foreign conflicts. Now he has started a war, and he had gotten into a mandate to wage. Had he not gotten a mandate to wage, and the economic pain may only be beginning. A month into the largest oil shock in modern history, global growth forecasts are being slashed, shortages are emerging across Europe and Asia, and energy traders warn the world has yet to feel the full severity of the disruption. A prolonged closure of the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway that is the primary exit route for oil and gas from the Persian Gulf, could tip the global economy into recession. The president was left frustrated by the predicament, at odds with some of his own officials, and fuming at the negative impressions of the war. The mounting political and economic toll has left him looking for an off-ramp, according to 2 advisors and 2 members of Congress who have spoken to him during the last week. Trump told them he wants to wind down the campaign, wary of the protracted conflict that could hobble Republicans heading into the midterms. At the same time, he wants the operation to be a decisive success. Allies say he's searching for a way to declare victory, halt the fighting, and hope that economic conditions stabilize before the political damage hardens. There's a narrow window, says a senior administration official who, like others interviewed for this account of Trump at war, was granted anonymity to provide candid observations about the president's thinking. Trump tried to thread the needle in a primetime address to the nation on April 1st. He trumpeted the military triumphs and said the operation was nearing its completion. He's said this 12 times so far, 13 or 14 times now, I think, by this weekend. While also saying the U.S. would strike the Islamic Republic extremely hard over the last 2 to 3 weeks, threatening to eviscerate the nation's energy infrastructure. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages, the president said, where they belong. So here's an input, right? Just real quick, just a quick sidebar. Iran has been a country and civilization for 2,500 years. Okay? They are 10 times older than the United States. Yet we talk about them like they are savages and barbarians. They have gone through so many different changes, evolutions, that we cannot even fathom as American citizens. Okay? The demeaning aspect of how we speak about these Middle Eastern countries is the barbarism. That is the barbarism. We are practicing aspects of the Stone Age, right? Not the Iranians. In a phone interview the next morning, Trump told Time that Iran was eager to make a deal to end the fighting. Why wouldn't they call? We just blew up their 3 big bridges last night, the president said. They're getting decimated. They say Trump is negotiating with Iran. I mean, it's sort of an easy negotiation. And yet, behind the bluster has been a growing recognition within the West Wing that the situation may be slipping out of its control. Key Trump officials, including Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, were surprised by the barrage of retaliatory attacks Tehran launched against the U.S. and Israeli targets across the region, including in countries long assumed to be off limits: Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE, and Qatar. A state that had both harbored Iran's terrorist proxies and served as a conduit for back-channel diplomacy between the U.S. and Hamas. The response shattered the assumption that Tehran could would confine itself to performative retaliation. What up, dude? Happy birthday! Y'all, it's Robbie's birthday today. Winglord 101. Are you doing anything fun for your birthday, dude? Probably got some nice weather up there in Maine today, right? It's like 80 degrees here, so it's probably what, like mid-60s up there? I submitted my text. Oh no, that's not birthday activity, dude. That's oh God, fucking being an adult sucks, man. It really blows. Fuck. Well, now now you can get drunk. So it's not the end of the world. That's true. That's true. Oh man. Fuck, dude. Did you at least get a return? Or did you have to pay? Oh no. Oh man, lots of bread. Ugh. Sorry, brother. Well, I'll have a glass of whiskey on your behalf when I get off stream today, in honor of you and all you've given the U.S. government today. Oh my gosh! All right, well you enjoyed just in time for us to read a Times article about how Trump's aides aren't giving him all the information about the war. Isn't that cool? That's fun. Great. Always happy to help fund the genocide, I guess. Ay, ay, ay. Oh, man. You know what I gotta do? Can I scroll this down? I can't. Oh, I can only go that far. Look at that. I think that's the most amount of people we've had comment today. What a good day. It's been a good stream so far. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here today. I appreciate it. Okay. In eternal deliberations before the war's launch, Hegseth had pointed to Iran's muted reaction to Trump's past attacks as evidence that calibrated force could impose costs on Tehran without triggering a broader war. Hegseth was caught off guard. There's no question. Only a person familiar with his thinking. So yeah, I'm not going to read this whole thing because it's really fucking long. But we know that he's not getting all of the information that he's supposed to be getting. You know, I hate being right because my brain always goes to the worst possible thing. And then when I'm proven right about that, that means the worst possible thing happened. And that's bad. So you know, while it's nice to be like, oh, my ideas were proven correct about the worst possible outcome, you know, it's a bit of a double-edged sword there. Okay, last thing to talk about before we move on to Pam Bondi. Rest in piss. Breaking Senator Whitehouse. Today, Donald Trump issued an executive order to the Postmaster General and DHS, his DHS ordering the Postmaster General, what a sentence, who he appointed to, seize control of mail-in ballots and invent a method with DHS for delivering mail-in ballots only to people Donald Trump's DHS believes should receive mail-in ballots. Yes, you heard that correctly. Now, the reason that he's doing this, and we've seen ICE agents at the airport working along TSA, and you've had Steve Bannon, you've had Mike Davis, and Senator Lankford, basically saying, yeah, we want ICE at the voting centers, and then they're getting rid of mail-in voting to force people to have to go to the voting centers where there might be ICE agents and intimidation, so people just don't vote at all, right? That's kind of the whole fucking point of this. So let's watch this little 4-minute video here.
Today, a Florida voter who votes by mail said this.
Cut to Trump.
The cheating on mail-in voting is legendary. It's horrible what's going on. And it's very clearly covered very, very clearly so. I think this will help a lot with elections.
Legendary is a good word for it. Legend means really not true. One thing Donald Trump never mentions is the name of anyone who has ever cheated with a mail-in voting ballot. It is essentially a non-existent crime. And today, Donald Trump issued an executive order to the Postmaster General and the Department of Homeland Security, his Department of Homeland Security, ordering the Postmaster General, who he appointed, to seize control of mail-in ballots and invent a method with the Department of Homeland Security for delivering mail-in ballots only to people Donald Trump's Department of Homeland Security believes should receive mail-in ballots. Yes, you heard that correctly. Back with us is Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. Senator, the early reviews from legal scholars on this one include phrases like wildly unconstitutional.
Yeah, we'll start with the fact that this guy's polling is in the 30s. He's stuck us in a totally unpopular war. Corruption is everywhere in plain view, and people's cost of living is getting worse every day. So he's looking at that mess that he has made, and he's figuring, how do we get out of that? We got to throw the election. And he's tried it with the SAVE Act. And in the House and in the Senate, his Republican members of Congress, with their usual spines of foam, have gone along with that effort. And of course, they grabbed the Georgia election records, and we're going to find out what that's all about. But with this, with an executive order, he has now made himself subject to a lawsuit. And the segue to your last segment is that there's going to be litigation about this. He lost, for instance, his offshore wind executive order in a case up in Massachusetts. And now he's going to have to go into court this time, not with spines of foam Republican members of Congress, but into court and try to defend this. And there's some data points that are pretty interesting. Mike Lee of Utah has been the lead voice for Republicans on the SAVE Act. In Utah, the Republican lieutenant governor reviewed 2 million ballots and found that one person out of 2 million had registered without proving that he was a citizen, but he hadn't voted, so 0 votes.
There you go. The Heritage Foundation, which is a conservative think tank that is responsible for putting conservative justices on our Supreme Court, has even said this is a non-issue. It barely happens. There have been 1,200 credible cases in 20 years. Millions, possibly even billions of votes over all of those elections. 1,200 times people broke the law. That's like a fraction of a percent. Right? And then we're going to watch a video a little later, more on the SAVE Act, of Caroline Leavitt talking about how she thinks people should think about voter fraud. Whether it's a rampant issue or even happening at all, it shouldn't happen at all. Okay, well, there are mechanisms in place to stop it from happening and from mitigating the effects on our elections. Okay, those protections are already in place at the state level, which is what the Constitution says is the law of the land, right?
And when a similar law passed in Kansas some years ago, they looked at the facts there, and they found that 67 people over nearly 20 years had attempted to register without proof of citizenship. 67 people in 20 years. And the law going after those 67 people who may never have voted, they just attempted to register, was to disenfranchise 31,000 legitimate voting Kansans. So when they get into court and they have to answer to facts like that, it's a very different environment than if you're just asking your spines of foam Republicans in Congress to go to the floor and say what they're told. So, you know, I think they stepped in it with this one, and I'm really looking forward to that litigation.
Yeah, I mean, you know, their points are not going to hold up to scrutiny. Straight up, dude. Fuck this shit. But it's like, I just don't see how any of it holds up. You know what I mean? I think the whole point is, oh, you did a highlight. I didn't even know you could do that. That's sick. I think the whole point is just to throw a monkey wrench into the system, right? Fuck things up as much as you can and hope that the outcome of the election can't be overturned or can't be changed after they prove that whatever executive order you passed, whatever changes you do to the federal government and how they enact these things. I'm gonna do this real quick so that people can see all the comments. There we go. There we go. That's better. It's not going to hold up in court, right? They're going to go to court. They're going to try to argue this stuff, and it doesn't make sense. Any justice in any court worth their salt is going to be like, yeah, this is unconstitutional. This goes against the words that are in the Constitution that the states should have all of the power in order to run their elections as they see fit. It is not up to the president to get rid of mail-in voting, right? But it's a monkey wrench, and it buys them time to essentially try and hold on to their very, 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 very slim majority. Okay, we're going to move on to Pam Bondi now. The Ice Queen herself. I was happy to see that she lost her job, but at the same time, it's not a great thing because, well, it is good, right? Obviously, we don't want her to be the Attorney General, but Todd Blanche is even more sycophantic than Pam Bondi was, especially when it comes to the Epstein files. He is like 100% against releasing any more of the Epstein files, and we know that half of the documents still haven't been released to the public. So we have this post from Thomas Massey, who has worked closely with Ro Khanna, who we've seen a couple interviews from today. Pam Bondi led this department. This is the statement from Todd Blanche in response to Trump's post. I'm not gonna read it. Who gives a fuck? Pam Bondi led this department with strength and conviction, and I'm grateful for her leadership and friendship. Thank you to President Trump for the trust and opportunity to serve as acting Attorney General. We will continue backing the blue, enforcing the law, and doing everything in our power to keep America safe. Thomas Massey, you have Thomas Massey sharing that, saying, "Congratulations, AG Blanche. Now you have 30 days to release the rest of the files before becoming criminally liable for failure to comply with the Epstein Files Transparency Act," which is the act that Congress passed. It's a law, which is the entire reason that Pam Bondi is being dragged into court to testify before Congress. And she is not going to be able to back out of that. She's not going to be able to dodge that. If she doesn't show up, she'll be held in contempt of Congress. Then the U.S. Marshals will come and get her and drag her to court. She may not go to prison for that. I don't think they would pursue that kind of legal action. But she is going to testify. That's going to happen. The only way she's not going to testify is if she's no longer topside, as I guess I'll say, to put it in a very PG way. I'm seeing this video down here. Julie Kelly. Who the fuck is Julie Kelly? Declassified with Julie Kelly. Okay, she's on the War Room with Steve Bannon. That's fun. You really need to shut the fuck up. Rich and powerful men rape and traffic underage women, and our justice system look the other way. I won't ignore it, and neither should you. Does she respond? Your paid bot army is very powerful, fraud. Oh my lord. All right, what's this video? I saw Steve Bannon's alcoholic ass face fucking pop up for a second.
I also don't care about the Epstein information. I don't care about those files. I think it's irrelevant. I don't care about those files. I think it's irrelevant. I think it's irrelevant. No one is going to be charged. Everyone got away with it. No one is going to be charged. Everyone got away with it. And I would much rather dig into January 6th. Much rather dig into.
Like that. You've got to get no.
I just have never cared about it personally.
Because in the files you're going to find out the I know, but but I'm saying it's you'll get to the cover up of exactly what the cover up was. They're even admitting they got these tapes and things. This is Cash and Pam. You got to get once you get into these things, they're rich, as you know, Julie. You've done it yourself with no resource at all, just doing it yourself. You understand as you start these investigations every day. You tell me, hey, I found this. I found this. The process itself delivers. Once you have intention and start moving down.
I also
What did I just watch? I think I just took psychic damage, dude. What the fuck? Is my brain leaking out of my ears? Is there blood running from my eyeballs? Because I'm pretty sure someone just stuck a whisker in my fucking head and just blended my brain. Oh my god, what the hell? Okay, sorry for everyone. That I feel like that was an act of terrorism on my part, and I apologize. Okay, that is my fault. I should have watched that video before I played it. Okay, cool. Moving on. Moving on. Okay, this is Congressman Robert Garcia reposting a clip from Fox News from Jesse Waters. This is Todd Blanche saying the DOJ has now released all of the files with respect to the Epstein saga. To the extent the Epstein files was part of the past year of this Justice Department, it should not be a part of anything going forward. Okay, we have a reader's note here. We have a community note. The DOJ has not released all the Epstein files. It identified more than 6 million potentially responsive pages, but released only 3.5 million. Okay, and that's according to the justice.gov. So he's lying. This is a lie. About 50% of the files have been released and per our subpoena, it's illegal to withhold them. Blanche may think it's over, but we are just getting started. Okay, let's listen to this little back and forth between this war criminal.
Now, the Epstein files, you'd agree, not handled well?
And I don't, first of all, I have never heard President Trump say that the Attorney General that anything that happened to her had anything to do with the Epstein files. And so, look, the Epstein files has been a saga that's lasted for the entire...
Okay, I'm just going to pause it for a second. This has nothing to do with what they're talking about. I just want to focus on this man's face. Have you ever seen a more punchable face in your life? I've never wanted to commit any type of violence towards anyone in my life, really. There's been a few moments where I've had to engage in self-defense. Man, that looks like a good face to just, you know? I don't think anyone should do it. I condemn violence. I do not condone it. But I wouldn't cry. I wouldn't cry. I wouldn't say, oh no, I'm sad about this. that smug ass fucking smile, dude, it just makes me livid inside. It makes my blood boil.
The past year. And what happened when the president signed the Transparency Act is the Department of Justice has now released all the files with respect to the Epstein saga. And the Attorney General Bondi and I appeared in front of Congress voluntarily a couple weeks ago to answer any questions they had. We have made every single congressman.
Now, that is also important to my prediction. So, this is something I want to talk about. He's referring to when Pam Bondi went in and they tried to take Democratic and Republican senators and bring them into a briefing room away from cameras, not recorded. There's no statement. And basically she's like, you can ask me any question you want. And they're like, no, we don't want to ask you the questions in here. We want to ask you questions on camera, so that everyone can see, and it will stop you from potentially lying, right? This is important to the testimony that they want her to give. They want her to be accountable. In this room, shielded, away from the cameras, away from any recordings, and not in a official deposition setting, she could say whatever the fuck she wants. She could just lie. She just refuse to answer any questions. She could do whatever the hell she wants, right? The Democrats left. They got up and left, essentially. And then you had Republicans being like, oh, they didn't get their way. They were asking for crazy things. They just left the meeting. They left the briefing. They didn't want to be a part of it. They don't actually give a shit about any of this, right? I think that day had a lot to do, or had some factoring in Trump's decision and how he looked at Pam Bondi. We know that he wasn't happy with how she was pursuing some of the criminal cases that he wanted her to pursue. He wanted the Justice Department to pursue. But I think that showed her power level to him, and that she has no major, she had no motion when it came to persuading these Democratic lawmakers into staying into the room, right? She didn't persuade anybody. It was a complete, utter waste of time. And I think Trump saw that and he was like, yeah, I don't think she's the right person anymore. I don't think she has the power to effectively hold this position and keep these people in line, right? Keep them fed with whatever we give them and keep them happy. It's, it was a power level display that proved that she really doesn't have much power level. She's pretty low motion when it comes to that. And I think that was a big factor for Trump. We don't know. This is just speculation on my part, and I'm not an expert, but that's the thought that's been rattling around in my brain. Okay, I'm going to move away from that for 1 second. We're going to go to this Al Jazeera article because I didn't know a ton about, what was going on. But this Al Jazeera article kind of lays out every aspect of, like, who these people are, where they came from, why she got fired, blah, 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 blah. And I found it really informative after I read it. What happened to Pam Bondi? Pam Bondi. Trump ousted Bondi as Attorney General, ending a tumultuous 14-month tenure at the Justice Department. Trump described Bondi as a loyal friend. He named Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who previously served as Trump's criminal defense lawyer, as acting Attorney General. Trump is also reportedly considering Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Lee Zeldin as a potential permanent replacement. In a statement, Bondi said her transition would take place over the next month and added that she remained eternally grateful for the trust that President Trump placed in me to make America safe again. The announcement comes less than 2 months after a tense congressional hearing in which Bondi faced aggressive questioning from politicians. With sometimes heated exchanges, at one point she insulted a Democratic member, calling him a washed-up loser. Trump said her new private sector role would be announced at a date in the future. So they're trying to find her somewhere to land after all of this. Who is Pam Bondi? Bondi, 60. She's 60 years old. I gotta say, she looks damn good for 60, dude. For all of the evilness and ice cold hatred and visceral running through her veins, she does not look 60. So I give her props on that. She served as Florida's first female attorney general from 2011 to 2019, after more than 18 years as a prosecutor in Hillsborough County. In Florida, she built a tough-on-crime profile focusing on human trafficking, child abuse, and the crackdown on so-called pill mills, clinics that illegally prescribe large quantities of painkillers, fueling the U.S. opioid crisis. She also backed major Republican legal battles, including a multi-state effort to overturn the Affordable Care Act, the 2010 healthcare law often known as Obamacare that expanded access to health insurance and supported Florida's ban on same-sex marriage before it was struck down nationwide in 2015. Bondi later gained national prominence through frequent television appearances and her close political ties to Trump, serving on his opioid commission and later joining his legal team during his first impeachment trial and efforts to challenge the 2020 election. Her record on sex trafficking later drew renewed scrutiny because of her limited involvement in legal challenges related to Jeffrey Epstein's controversial non-prosecution deal in Florida, which allowed him to avoid federal charges and serve a short jail sentence despite major sex trafficking investigation. Why was she fired? Bondi's departure follows months of intense scrutiny over two key issues as well as growing frustration from Trump over her performance. Al Jazeera's Alan Fisher said Trump likes her personally, but felt she wasn't delivering on his views and his vision for the Justice Department. Fisher said that while Bondi defended Trump strongly in public and during congressional hearings, the president wanted to see more action against people he believed had broken the law or had wronged him. But the biggest controversy of Bondi's time in office came from the handling of the Epstein files, which became a growing political problem for the administration. The Epstein case has remained one of the most politically sensitive scandals in the U.S. Epstein was accused of running a sex trafficking operation involving underage girls and had connections with powerful and wealthy figures. He died in jail in 2019 while awaiting trial. Notice they don't say he killed himself. But the case continued to generate political pressure for the release of documents related to his associates, with many Americans demanding greater transparency. The Jeffrey Epstein files. When Bondi became Attorney General in February 2025, she promised more transparency in the Epstein case and said documents linked to the financier would be released. She also suggested in interviews that important evidence was in her possession, raising expectations about major revelations. However, the Justice Department later said some of the material people expected, including a supposed client list, did not exist. Bondi faced further backlash after distributing binders labeled Epstein files to conservative influencers that contained little new information. When heavily redacted documents were later released and the administration stepped back from promises of full transparency, she faced criticism over how the issue had been handled. The controversy became a political problem for the administration, and toward the end, Bondi was largely sidelined from publicly addressing the Epstein files, with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche taking a more prominent role. Political prosecutions. The Epstein controversy was not the only issue affecting Bondi's position. She also reportedly struggled to deliver successful cases against some of Trump's political rivals, something that added to frustration inside the White House. A case linked to former FBI Director James Comey fell apart and did not result in charges, while other efforts to pursue legal action against officials involved in investigations into Trump failed to move forward or were dismissed in court because there was no basis. We had so many last year, so many prosecutors coming through, working for the Trump administration saying, dude, I don't know what to tell you. There's no case here. It's going to get thrown out in court. And if you file frivolous cases, you are subject to the court's rules, and they can hold you in contempt. They can say, they can even take away your ability to practice law. So you had a number of lawyers that essentially were being tapped as prosecutors for these cases having to resign because they were going to lose their ability to practice law, potentially, right? And it's a huge ethics violation to try and bring forward cases that have no legal merit, no standing, right? They're not going to move forward in court. You have to remember that the Justice Department is an independent organization, Fisher said. It's meant to operate well away from the president, but Donald Trump was very unhappy with his attorneys general during his first term. He wanted someone who would effectively act as his own personal lawyer. Fisher said Bondi had been Trump's second choice for the role and was popular among his MAGA supporters, with many expecting she would deliver what the president wanted. But it turns out she couldn't work within the existing legal framework to deliver what Donald Trump wanted. Who is Todd Blanche? I believe that's supposed to be in capital like the rest of it. Trump's pick is acting head of the Justice Department. Blanche served as a deputy attorney general, acting in second command behind Bondi at the Justice Department over the past year. Before joining the leadership at the Justice Department, Blanche was a federal prosecutor. He has close personal ties to the president through his past legal work, having served as Trump's criminal defense attorney in 2 federal cases brought during the Biden administration, as well as being a key figure in Trump's defense team during the New York hush money case. Upon his appointment as acting attorney general, Blanche posted a statement on X thanking Trump for the trust and opportunity, while praising Bondi for leading with strength and conviction. He stated that under his leadership, the department will continue backing the blue, a reference to law enforcement officials, enforcing the law and doing everything in our power to keep America safe. Who is Lee Zeldin? That's a big gap. Before being tapped to lead EPA, Zeldin served as a Republican congressman from New York and was a staunch ally of Trump. He worked on Trump's defense team during his first impeachment and voted against certifying Trump's 2020 election loss to Joe Biden. Awesome. It's definitely somebody I want running the Justice Department. That's going to be great. As head of the EPA, Zeldin has overseen the rollback of some climate change regulations, and his agency has proposed adding microplastics and pharmaceuticals to the list of regulated drinking water contaminants. Zeldin is now reportedly being considered by Trump as a potential permanent replacement for Bondi, which would place another close political ally at the head of the Justice Department. Will Pam Bondi still face congressional subpoena? Bondi has been expected to face a congressional subpoena to answer questions under oath about the Justice Department's handling of the documents related to the Epstein case and the release of the related files. The subpoena, which ordered her to appear before the House Oversight Committee on April 14th, was issued after the Justice Department's release of millions of pages of Epstein's documents failed to resolve widespread criticism. Politicians were highly frustrated with the department's handling of the files, leading the Republican-led committee to demand her testimony to investigate further. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer said that he would consult Republicans on the committee about whether to continue pursuing the subpoena following Bondi's departure. Democrats quickly called on the committee to move forward. Robert Garcia, the top Democrat in the committee, said Bondi will not escape accountability and remains largely obligated to appear before her committee under oath. If they don't force her to come to testify before the Oversight Committee, whoever is in charge of that decision, presumably James Comer, will be eviscerated in any election going forward. He will never, ever be reelected because the Epstein files is one of the only places in all of United States politics that there is an overlap between both parties. Those on the left want to see accountability. Those on the right also want to see accountability, so long as it's not Trump, right? I don't really give a shit about the reactions. Okay, that's a breakdown on what has happened here. We have a CIA, maybe CNN article: how Pam Bondi lost her job. I don't know. We might be able to skip this. That last thing was pretty in depth. I'm just gonna skip
Congressman Eric Swalwell, he's a Democrat.
Oh, right. Okay. So the other thing that's going around is the reason that she lost her job was because of this idea that she tipped off Eric Swalwell about the investigation into his former girlfriend, I guess, who is allegedly a Chinese spy named Fang Fang. Fang Fang! I mean, that's a pretty fucking cool name, honestly, in my opinion. So this is a news segment with James Swalwell, and he is denying that Bondi leaked any information to him. And the only place that I've heard this coming out of was from Candace Owens. But Candace Owens has a huge following and is able to, really mobilize her following to push these stories, push these theories, right? You have people transvestigating Emmanuel Macron, whatever his fucking first name is, the president of France, his wife, for being potentially a guy or some shit. Erica Kirk, transvestigating Erica Kirk. I mean, she's a racist, anti-Semitic conspiracy theorist that I don't understand how she has as much credibility as she does. It really blows my fucking mind that people watch her and listen to her and go, she's got some good ideas. Candace Owens is like the literal spawn of Satan. She's an awful human being. I don't take anything that she says as truth, gospel, fact, whatever. She is a propagandist and a sensationalist and a conspiracy theorist. So let's watch this news segment here.
Congressman Eric Swalwell, he's a Democrat from California. He serves on the Judiciary Committee and is a candidate for governor. He joins me now. Congressman, good to see you. So, as I'm sure you saw, Shelby Talcott from Semaphore was on with me earlier today, and she's been reporting that part of the reason Bondi was fired is that Trump suspects that Bondi leaked some information to you about an effort by the administration to release files from a 10-year-old closed investigation into your relationship with an alleged Chinese spy. Did Bondi or anyone in her orbit leak information to you, Congressman?
No. The Attorney General did not tip us off. No one in her orbit tipped us off. It was FBI agents who tipped off the Washington Post because they saw this effort by Kash Patel and Donald Trump to try and interfere in a California governor's race that I have been leading. And so, what this shows, though, and what is quite concerning, is that Donald Trump is seeing ghosts. He's certainly gunning for us. And he wants an attorney general who's willing to break the law and weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. That is what has to be intolerable, not just for Pam Bondi, and I don't know the reasons why she was let go, but it has to be intolerable for anybody who sits in that chair and carries out what we hope to be the rule of law and a system of justice.
So you say you don't know the reason that she was fired, but you know that it wasn't you.
I have no idea.
I'm curious, though.
But I'm in Donald Trump's head, and he's tweeting at me at 4:45 in the morning. So,
Jesus
Christ. I cannot get into Donald Trump's head. I would never ask that of you. But when you look at the facts, at what we do know, at what my colleague Ken Delanian just laid out there, do you see this as a case that's more likely about her failure to successfully go after his perceived enemies, like yourself, like Adam Schiff, like Tish James, although they're trying another route to go after her right now? Or do you see this as an Epstein-related PR problem?
It concerns me that it looks like it's the former, that she won't go after enough enemies. And by the way, I don't know many Americans who are saying, I need Donald Trump to go after more of his political enemies. They're already seeing him come for Adam Schiff, Tish James, Lisa Cook, myself, the 6 members of Congress who spoke out about what the military can and cannot do. This is not what people want the president to prioritize. And I can't speak for every American, but I can speak for Californians. And Californians want him to just focus on being a president who lowers the costs on day one. He hasn't lowered the costs on day one. He's been a dictator since day one. That's the only promise that he's kept. But people want him to just lower the costs.
Do Democrats have much to celebrate? I've seen some of your colleagues putting out statements. I know they're certainly not shedding a tear for Bondi today, but we have now Blanche, who some of the survivors that our team has spoken to, in some cases, they actually see him as even more responsible because he flew down, met with Ghislaine Maxwell. After that interaction, she, of course, got into better digs in this sort of prison camp. And he's sort of been side by side with her throughout that entire process. Then we know that Lee Zeldin is interested in the job. Janine Pirro. I mean, is there a scenario in which, from the Democratic perspective, what comes next is even worse?
Actually, that might be great. That might be perfect because she's
That's right.
So
this is
incompetent.
not something to celebrate because we know Donald Trump's instincts here seem to be that he wants somebody to exercise maximum corruption against his political enemies. And what the Deputy Attorney General and Acting Attorney General should know is that Democrats are going to win the Congress this coming fall. And Jamie Raskin and Robert Garcia are going to have gavels, and they're going to have the subpoena power, and they're going to have the power of oversight and the power of the purse, Speaker Jeffries, to fund Congress. It's all coming out. It always has in the history of our country, from J. Edgar Hoover to Watergate and Richard Nixon to the last time Donald Trump was elected and acted so corruptly. It is all coming out. And by the way, we are at war. Gas prices are soaring. Iran seeks to attack us on the homeland, and the surveillance powers that the FBI uses expire on April 20. Democrats are telling me, over 100 of them have told me that they will not reauthorize this if this is what they are doing with their law enforcement powers, that they will not give them those powers to protect the homeland if it's just going to be used to go after their political enemies. The stakes are high, and the consequences, though, for abuses of power come this time next year will be even higher.
Speaking of oversight, what do you think the chances are that she actually comes forward and goes before lawmakers and testifies under oath as she was supposed to do in just a matter of days?
That should still happen. And this, the Epstein, debacle and the promises that the president made, it's not going away. There's more questions now than, have been answered from the multiple witnesses who have come forward and the lack of, I would say, compliance that the administration has shown on releasing the files. And Democrats
what
have
are
said,
Democrats going to do if she simply does not? I mean, our colleague Michael Schnell, she spoke with staff for Chairman Comer, and it sounds like the suggestion seemed to be, if she's not AG anymore, why would we have her show up? So what are Democrats going to do if she tries to wiggle out of this?
Well, Democrats have, on this issue, been able to find Republican co-sponsors. There are people like Thomas Massie and others who have worked with us to find justice for these victims. And the margins in Congress are so thin right now that you don't need to find too many. And that's, again, why I am telegraphing that when Democrats are in the majority next year, it's all coming out. And so the brave FBI agents who came forward to, make it clear what abuses were occurring against us in this governor's race last week, come forward now. If you continue these abuses, you will be before Congress. Reputationally, you won't get through this. If you come forward, though, and you say no to these abuses and you tell the Congress and the whistleblower protections that you have, you will be protected. It's that clear right now. And, the stakes of not coming forward for our democracy are so consequential and could end this 250-year experiment of freedom.
All right, Congressman Eric Swalwell, good to see you.
All right. So, we got, let's see, good amount of stuff still to talk about here. All right, so let's talk about ICE. A little bit more on government accountability here. 46 people have died in federal immigration detention since President Trump took office, including 13 in the first 3 months of this year alone, the highest annual total on record since the Department of Homeland Security began operating in 2003. According to the New York Times, the deaths come as the number of immigrants in ICE custody has nearly doubled in 14 months. So there was a big article that came out. I can't read it because it's paywalled, and I'm not going to pay I'm not going to give my money to the fucking New York Times. They can suck me. As deaths in ICE custody are growing. They let them rot in there. They let him rot in there. As immigrant detainee deaths have increased, conditions in detention facilities nationwide are coming under more scrutiny. We have a NBC News article about this. So far this year, 14 people have died in U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement custody, including a Mexican man who was found unresponsive last week in a facility outside Los Angeles. According to data from the Department of Homeland Security, as of mid-February, ICE was holding more than 68,000 immigrants, among the highest number ever, according to federal data. The figure fluctuates as immigrants get deported and others are taken into custody. In 2025, ICE reported 33 total in-custody deaths, and in 2024, there were 11. As the Trump administration has sought to drastically increase space to detain immigrants as part of its mass deportation campaign, holding facilities have struggled with disease and overcrowding. Homeland Security recently changed contractors at its largest immigrant detention center in Fort Bliss outside El Paso, Texas. Just 7 months after it opened, the tent facility known as Camp East Montana has had a troubled history, starting with a fatal construction accident and 3 detainee deaths in less than 6 weeks. Indian burial ground, Native American burial ground, Montezuma's revenge. What do we think this is? Ancient curses, killing them. Crazy. One of which was ruled a homicide. That's crazy. There have been... What does that have to do with? Oh, Lord. The autopsy report for Geraldo Lunas Campos, 55, originally from Cuba, who died on January 3rd at the Camp East Montana facility at Fort Bliss, found the cause of death to be asphyxia due to neck and torso compression. 6, so they strangled this guy to death. Awesome. That's fucked up. There have also been outbreaks of both tuberculosis and measles. The Trump administration has said it is shifting its deportation strategy to increase its focus on arresting and deporting immigrants who have criminal records following the shooting deaths of 2 U.S. citizens by federal immigration officers during deportation operations in Minnesota. On March 25th, Jose Guadalupe Ramos Solano, who was in federal custody in California after he was convicted of possession of a controlled substance and theft, was found by security to be unresponsive in his bunk. ICE said in a statement that staff performed CPR and other life-saving procedures. He was taken to Victor Valley Global Medical Center, where he was pronounced dead. Mexico President Claudia Sheinbaum said during her daily press conference Monday that Mexico would take stronger measures to protest following the reported death, focusing particularly in the Los Angeles region. There are several actions we are going to take to protest the death of another Mexican, one of our fellow citizens in the United States. Ramos Solano was arrested by ICE on February 23rd, sent to the Adelanto Detention Center. He received a physical evaluation. During his intake screening, was found to have diabetes. hyperlipidemia, and hypertension. ICE said he received routine medical care in custody, including daily medication for his conditions. Ramos Solano's cause of death was not immediately made public, and Homeland Security officials didn't respond to questions about his cause of death. At the Mexican consulate in Los Angeles on Monday, members of Romano Solano's family wept as they spoke out against his death and demanded answers. What happened to my dad was very inhumane, said Gloria Ramos, the daughter of Ramos Solano. I think my family and I deserve to know the truth of what happened to my dad. The man's son, Jorge Ramos, paused often as he spoke, becoming overcome with emotion. He was a good dad. He was a good person. He was not a criminal. He was a hard worker, he said. An official with Mexico's foreign ministry attended the news conference and denounced the number of deaths in ICE custody this year. 4 Mexican nationals have died, apparently due to medical complications, highlighting a pattern of persistent structural deficiencies. Vanessa Calva Ruiz, the Director General of Consular Protection and Strategic Planning, said the recurrence and frequency of these deaths are absolutely unacceptable. So not only are we brutalizing immigrants in our local communities, but we are also causing tens of thousands of veterans to become homeless. Trump was warned this would happen. He did it anyway. Trump's VA killed a home loan program. Vets are now losing their homes because of it. Now over 10,000 veterans lost their homes. 90,000 more on track for disclosure, on top of cutting jobs, slashing benefits, and throwing our heroes into an unnecessary war. The most anti-veteran president in history. Sorry, that yawn has been building up for the last 5 minutes as I was reading that article. I really needed to get it out. We're going to look at this NPR article. Actually, we're going to listen to it.
This message comes from Charles Schwab with their original podcast, Choiceology. Choiceology is a show about the psychology and economics behind people's decisions. Download the latest episode and subscribe at schwab.com/podcast.
You're listening to Trump's Terms. I'm Scott Detrow.
President Trump promised every single American that he would make America safe again.
Every single day in the Oval Office, the president looks at us and says, why haven't we done more?
This will be an entirely different country in a short period of time.
Every episode, we bring you one story from NPR's recent coverage of the 47th president, with a focus on ways his administration is pushing the boundaries of presidential power. Here's the latest from NPR.
From NPR News, I'm Steve Inskeep in Washington, D.C. We have an update on an NPR investigation that began 3 years ago and exposed a debacle at the Department of Veterans Affairs. The VA put thousands of veterans at risk of home foreclosures through no fault of their own. The problem started under the Biden administration, and the Biden administration rolled out a program to fix it. Then President Trump killed that program, despite warnings that killing it would cause veterans to lose their homes. Now, veterans are losing their homes. NPR's Chris Arnold and Quill Lawrence report.
More than 10,000 veterans have lost their homes in foreclosure sales since Trump's VA, with no warning, shut down that program last May. That's the highest level in a decade, according to industry data.
Leanne Ledford is one of them. The hardest thing for her is that she's been here before and fought her way out.
When you lose your home, your house, like nothing else matters.
Ledford's husband was hurt in Afghanistan. He has PTSD and a brain injury, but it took a long time for the VA to approve his disability pay. And back in 2018, his condition got so bad that he couldn't work.
Obviously, I can't just leave my husband at home if he's having, at first we didn't know whether it was a stroke or a seizure or what was going on.
So they were both out of work with a young kid. Soon they couldn't afford rent.
So we had to use the last bit of our savings and cash out our retirement and buy a travel trailer and trade in my Jeep for a truck
They hitched that camper to their truck and lived out of it for 6 months. But then they managed to get back on their feet, and by 2021, they bought a house with a VA home loan. That's just what the VA loan is supposed to do, give veterans a leg up into the middle class and home ownership.
But then thousands of vets found themselves trapped by a series of missteps by the Department of Veterans Affairs. And that has now pushed the Ledfords to the brink of eviction.
We didn't know that the foreclosure sale went through until somebody knocked on the front door.
The mortgage industry warned the Trump administration this was going to happen. The crisis started in 2022 when the Biden administration abruptly ended a COVID-era mortgage relief program. That's what trapped the Ledfords and lots of other vets. The Biden VA took 2 years to fix the problem, but once the fix was finally up and running, a program called VASP, it started saving the homes of large numbers of veterans.
Yeah, VASP gave 33,000 vets affordable, low-interest rate loans. But some Republicans in Congress thought that the program cost too much, and they wanted to kill it and replace it. The mortgage industry back then was basically warning, please God, don't kill this VASP program before you actually do replace it with something different.
Without VASP, VA would have foreclosed on tens of thousands of borrowers.
That was Elizabeth Balsay of the Mortgage Bankers Association at a congressional hearing in March of last year. She was asked what would happen if VA scuttled the VASP program.
Foreclosure. I mean, that's the short answer is foreclosure.
And now that's what's happening because Trump's VA shut down VASP anyway.
It's hard to say just how many of those 10,000 vets who lost their home to foreclosure could have been helped by the VASP program. And some, like the Ledfords, could have afforded to keep their homes if the program had survived.
But their lender didn't get them into the program by the time it got closed to any more vets. And now it's too late. Leanne Ledford says her husband's PTSD symptoms had improved after they bought this house. Now he's having seizures again. Even talking about losing this house has stressed him out so much that he asked not to record an interview.
I haven't seen him struggle this bad in years, since the first time he started having seizures and new health issues from his traumatic brain injury.
In a written statement, the VA said, quote, VA worked tirelessly with the Ledford family to help keep them in their home. However, they were nearly 4 years behind on their mortgage payment. What the VA didn't mention is that many families like the Ledfords weren't permitted to make mortgage payments, sometimes for years after the VA trapped them in a bureaucratic quagmire.
It all started after the pandemic hit the U.S. economy. Homeowners were offered what's called a forbearance. That's a pause in your mortgage payments, and thousands of veterans took it.
We weren't getting out of our payments. It was just a pause. It felt like such a relief for us.
But this is where things first went off the rails. 4 years ago, the Biden VA turned off a repayment program that was part of that forbearance, and veteran families like the Ledfords were stuck with a terrible choice. Again, they were not allowed to resume making their regular monthly mortgage payments unless they first paid back all the missed payments. That's tens of thousands of dollars due all at once. There was one other option. They could basically refinance, but mortgage rates had jumped from 3% to 7%, so the Ledfords couldn't afford any of those options.
And many vets who did take that refi option, they got hit with punishingly higher monthly payments. Gulf War vet John Henry saw his payment go up $380 a month.
And it's like, what the hell? With groceries, gas, and everything else, with all that being inflated. And it's like, this is ridiculous.
Same thing with Afghanistan vet Shante Benfado.
I mean, that's dire. It hurts paying $3,200 a month.
Jerome Thomas, an Air Force veteran, got stuck in a new loan that doubled his interest rate for his family of 5 and raised their monthly payment by $800.
I don't have the means to afford that much money. I got my 3 kids in here. I got, the wife, she's a teacher.
And here's the thing to understand. All these vets were hoping to get into VASP, the program meant to fix this whole mess. But when the Trump administration killed it and didn't replace it with anything, they were stranded.
Now, nearly a year later, VA has finally just released a draft of its new program, but VA says that won't be up and running until June, and vets are losing their homes right now. Meanwhile, mortgage industry groups say that the draft of the VA's new program would still leave many veterans worse off than people who never served. And lawmakers agree that the program still needs work.
The new program won't do anything to help any of the vets you heard from in this story. It's already too late for them, including the Ledfords.
You can't stabilize in life if you don't have like a stable home.
The VA said in a statement that it helped thousands of vets to avoid foreclosure, but it didn't offer specifics.
VA said it stands ready to assist the Ledfords with health care services as needed. They've been asked to vacate their home by April 3rd. That's tomorrow. Chris Arnold
and Quill Lawrence, NPR News.
All right. So this is something that I wanted to to talk about. Where I live in Charlotte, there's a lot of homeless that are in the immediate area around my house. And a few of them have been out there for quite some time. Years. They don't go to shelters. They don't trust the shelters. There's a lot of reasons why they don't seek help. They can't really trust a lot of people, and a lot of the help that they do get is not long term. It's merely Band-Aids and stopgaps to get to the next problem that they have, essentially, and things really don't change. I'm hoping to have to talk more with these people in my local area to find out what the main issues are. But there is one guy that I've seen out and about for the last few years, who is a vet, and he has his dog with him. He basically lives outside of a gas station near my house, and he's been out there for at least 2 years. And I asked him the other day, I said, what is keeping you? What is the biggest hurdle? What's the biggest issue for you being able to find affordable and quality housing? And he said straight up, it's the VA. The VA is not allowing me to have a house or help me even get a house or a place to live, an apartment even. And apparently he had a spot, and they kicked him out because they wouldn't let him have the dog. I haven't been able to get a ton of information from this guy. I'm hoping to talk more to him, possibly doing an IRL stream, and talking to him and interviewing him. But I haven't been able to confirm that. I haven't been able to set that up completely yet. So we'll see what's going on, but it's outrageous. Why would the VA, the thing that's supposed to help our veterans, do more to hurt them? Right? It seems counterintuitive. It seems counterproductive, cruel. I don't really understand it. I don't really get it, and I'm looking forward to kind of digging into this a little bit more because, I have family members that are veterans. I don't necessarily support their decision to, go overseas and kill people or want to sign up to the U.S. war machine and further fascism in the world, but they're not in a position of power. They're not making the decisions. They're just grunts who think they're doing something good for the country that they live in. And then they realize that the government doesn't give a fuck about them and throws them to the side. And then they become disillusioned. They become angry. And yeah. Okay, a few more government things I want to talk about. This is another thing about Pete Hegseth. The Pentagon is desperately trying to cover up a massive insider trading scandal. A prominent CNBC journalist confirms that Financial Times report about Pete Hegseth is rock solid and warns there is much more to this corrupt story than Washington is admitting.
Government. Pre-war investments in massive U.S. defense contractors. Well, a spokesperson for Hegseth says the allegation is entirely false and fabricated, and that neither Hegseth nor his representatives approached BlackRock about any such investment. The Financial Times story was reported primarily by Paul Murphy, the news organization's investigations editor, and a journalist for CNBC Europe who has worked in the past with Murphy responded to the Hegseth denials with this.
Well, I can tell you the first byline on that story is Paul Murphy, who's the FT's investigations editor, someone who I've known and worked with. I first worked with him more than 30 years ago at the Daily Telegraph here in London. He is one of the best journalists I have ever worked with. And so I think there's probably more to this story than the White House and the US Secretary Defense Department is saying.
Government. Pre-war investments in massive U.S.
There's a Financial Times article that came out this week stating that Pete Hegseth tried to use a broker to invest in different war contracts and war companies and stuff like that before the war started, and wasn't necessarily able to make a profit off it. He tried to do this and failed at it, essentially. Which is even funnier to me. But then he got caught doing it. And, the SEC has been gutted. The FCTC, right? The Federal Trade Commission, they have also been gutted. So there's not much accountability right now for any of these illegal acts, these insider trading and stuff like that. But we do know it's happening. And it won't, it won't stay buried for forever. The truth always comes out. So we'll have to see what happens with that. Quickly, we'll cover this. I don't know too much about it, but I felt like it was an important headline to talk about. Beloved community leader Salah Sarsour was abducted by ICE on Monday, March 30th. Salah serves as the president of the Islamic Society of Milwaukee, board member of American Muslims for Palestine, and has been a community advocate for over 3 decades. He's a father, a grandfather, a dear husband, and a kind and principled role model for countless people in Milwaukee and beyond. As the American Muslim community that believes in justice and equal rights for all people, we condemn this abduction and usurpation of our community leaders' rights. Salah has been a lawful permanent resident in the United States for over 32 years. He is a pillar of the community and law-abiding Milwaukee business owner, yet he was pulled over while driving by over 10 ICE agents with no cause. He was taken out of state to a detention facility in Chicago before being transferred to a detention center in Indiana. His family was left scrambling to determine his whereabouts and his condition. We must be clear that Salah... why does it scroll so far? Salah is being targeted on the basis of his Palestinian Muslim background. Salah grew up in the occupied West Bank in Palestine, where he faced oppression and torture at the hands of the Israeli occupation forces as a child. After marriage, he moved to the United States and built a strong and loving family. Along the way, he has supported dozens of community members, hiring countless Milwaukeeans who needed a job, and building up advocacy and educational organizations to bring a greater voice to immigrants, Palestinians, Muslims across Wisconsin and the country. Salah's story represents precisely the immigrant refugee success story that should be celebrated, not demonized, as the cornerstone of this country's professed values. Structural racism against Palestinians and Muslims, especially immigrants, weakens our democracy and erodes human rights for all. DHS targeting a community member like Salah must raise alarms for us all, for all of us. His detention reflects a troubling trend we've seen with Mahmoud Khalil, Liqua Cordia, Mohsen Madawi, and other voices critical of Israeli oppression. This administration is weaponizing the U.S. justice system to advance the interests of a foreign state, Israel, at a time when it's carrying out a genocide in Gaza, recognizing that it has lost American public opinion. The Israeli lobby is now leveraging the justice system to undermine our constitutional rights and suppress dissent. Salah's arrest also reflects deeper threats to our democracy from an administration that disregards American values and treats constitutional and legal limits as optional. We stand against this coordinated attempt to wield U.S. immigration courts to silence Palestinian voices and advance a racist anti-Muslim agenda. We write to affirm that we will fight for him. We will fight for his release, just as we have fought as a community against all attacks on immigrant, Black, Palestinian, Somali, Latino, and Muslim civil and human rights. We understand what it feels like to be othered, radicalized, or racialized, and exceptionalized as victims of state violence, and we refuse to let go of our rights and our values. We invite you to stand with us and stand with Salah Sarsour. He was arrested by ICE. 10 Muslim civil rights organizations issued a joint letter Thursday denouncing the March 30th arrest of Salah Sarsour, president of the Islamic Society of Milwaukee, and a prominent Palestinian-American advocate. Sarsour, who was pulled over while driving, is a lawful permanent resident who has lived in the United States for 32 years. His wife and children are U.S. citizens. The letter said Sarsour is being targeted on the basis of his Palestinian and Muslim background. Now, we haven't heard why he was arrested by ICE or detained by ICE. Obviously, we can, suspect or postulate on why he was arrested, and we'd probably be right, but we don't know for sure. We haven't heard an explanation from ICE as to why he is in detention. We don't know when he'll be released, hopefully soon. Okay, I want to cover this because I want to end on a funny note. This section about the government. So we'll cover this. 300 habeas cases in which the government has defied court orders, an extraordinary database of non-compliance from at lawfare. Let's see. We'll give him a follow. We'll give Anna a follow too. So this is just a little chart of government contempt and non-compliance. 300 documented instances of government non-compliance with federal court orders on immigration habeas cases with links to the specific filings and orders. 199 in the District of Minnesota. They really went hard. I believe that the operation in that went down with ICE and CBP in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, was in direct retaliation to what happened towards the end of or the middle of 2020 when we were going through COVID and Trump was president, and the George Floyd protests. 57 in the District of New Jersey, 10 in the Eastern District of California, 6 in New York, and 5 in Massachusetts, with 15 more. So there's this article from Lawfare. What does it look like when the government violates court orders in 300 separate immigration habeas cases? It looks like the case of Alberto Castaneda Mondragon. Ooh, that's a fun last name. On January 23rd, U.S. District Judge Donovan Frank of the District of Minnesota granted a writ of habeas corpus to Castaneda and ordered his immediate release from custody. Release from custody, in his case, didn't mean release from jail or immigration and customs enforcement detention. He was in a hospital bed at the time. In his case, release meant the removal of restraints that bound him to the hospital bed and the departure from the hospital of the ICE officers who were guarding him. The judge ordered the government to file a status update confirming Castaneda's release by January 26th. The government violated the court order and didn't file the update by the deadline Judge Frank had imposed. Mondragon, a Mexican national, had been arrested by ICE agents in St. Paul, Minnesota as part of the Trump administration's Operation Metro Surge on January 8th. After his arrest and detention, according to the judge's own telling, ICE agents had taken him to Minnesota Hospital for evaluation of an apparent head injury. After conducting a CT scan, doctors had diagnosed Castaneda with the following life-threatening injuries: skull fractures to the right frontal temporal parietal, occipital, sphenoid, and orbital bones, and the zygomatic arch and left temporal bone, the epidural, subdural, subarachnoid, that sounds terrifying, intracerebral, and they're just really I don't even know how to pronounce that, hemorrhages. Bad fucking head injuries for this guy. Because of the severity of his injuries, Castaneda had been transferred to another hospital for enhanced care and detention. According to the court, ICE agents had refused to leave the hospital. 2 agents had been present at hospital at all times since Castaneda Mondragon's admittance. They also used handcuffs to shackle Castaneda's legs. Where's he going to go? Motherfucker's got severe head injuries. Probably, a severe concussion. I don't even know if he was conscious. Where the fuck's he going to go? After the reported dispute with hospital staff over the use of restraints, Castaneda was later confined by hospital-issue 4-point restraint attached to his hospital bed, the result of an apparent compromise. Castaneda reportedly told hospital staff that his injuries were the result of bodily dragging and other mistreatment by federal agents. ICE agents, for their part, largely refused to discuss how Castaneda sustained his injuries, stating only that he got his shit rocked and purposefully ran headfirst into a brick wall, a claim that a nurse at the hospital told the Associated Press was laughable. While Castaneda was initially able to speak with hospital staff by January 23rd, according to the court, he was experiencing difficulty communicating verbally. 2 days after the government failed to confirm Castaneda's release, at 1 p.m. on January 28th, the judge wrote, absent assurance that petitioner will be released by 2 p.m. on January 28th. The court will issue an order to show cause why respondents should not be held in contempt. A contempt hearing shall be scheduled. The government's response to this threat in 2 letters to the court filed that day apparently satisfied the judge, as no further records appear on the docket. The government's widespread noncompliance also looks like a case that began roughly 2 weeks earlier on the 15th. On that day, according to court documents, multiple ICE agents allegedly entered the Minnesota home of 6 Venezuelan nationals. They did so without a warrant and detained the Venezuelans at gunpoint. After the 6 individuals, one of whom was a 12-year-old child with asthma, filed their joint petition for a writ of habeas corpus, the court ordered the government to produce a judicial warrant justifying ICE's entry into their home, and to do so by January 19th. As in the Castaneda case, the government did not comply. As a result, the court granted the petition and ordered the government to return all 6 petitioners to Minnesota and release them by January 22nd with a status update due on January 24th. At a status conference, January 22nd, the government informed the court that all 6 petitioners, including the child, who was held without an inhaler, had been transferred to a detention facility in Texas. By January 25th, the government had missed both the court's deadlines to return the detainees to Minnesota and the deadline to release them from custody. And it still had not presented a judicial warrant to satisfy the original action. Indeed, U.S. District Judge John R. Thunheim noted that the government had not made a single filing to the docket in this case, aside from counsel's notice of appearance. So I'm not going to be able to read this entire thing. It's really long and stream's getting pretty late. We're at 3.5 hours right now. It's a good article to read. Crazy shit happening with ICE. I want to talk about this real quick before we move on. I woke up this morning and audibly cackled in my bed when I read this. A top FEMA official is doubling down on his claims that he teleported to a Waffle House. A top FEMA official doubling down on his claims that he was teleported to a Waffle House. The fuck?
Tonight, an update to an exclusive K-File report you saw first here on Outfront. New fallout over a top FEMA official's claim that he was teleported, yes, teleported, to a Waffle House, yes, Waffle House, miles away. Democratic lawmakers have been raising concerns about those comments and about the FEMA official himself, Greg Phillips, after CNN's K-File reporting revealed, among other concerning comments, this claim Phillips made on a podcast last year.
We had a teleport incident, 2 of them, which transported me about 40 miles from where I was and near Albany, Georgia, to the ditch of a church. I ended up at a Waffle House like 50 miles away from where I was. It was an incredibly frightening moment to experience yourself in your car flying through the air. It was possible. It was real.
What?
K-File's Andrew Kaczynski broke the story. He's with us now. Andrew, what exactly is Phillips saying now, and how is he explaining these claims?
Brianna, Phillips is doubling down on his teleportation claims in a series of new social media posts over the last week. Phillips, who oversees the government's disaster response, is defending those remarks, saying they were part of a religious experience and citing examples in the Bible, while also accusing critics of taking them out of context. Haters gonna hate. That's what Phillips wrote in one of a handful of comments over the past month on media, not away from his claims, but defending them and doubling down. All of those coming in the days following CNN's reporting. On True Social, Phillips defended himself by writing in one post, "I have no regrets for my words, nor my faith in my Savior Jesus Christ. The Bible has many examples of the power of God." In that same thread, he then shared a passage from the book of Acts, describing the Apostle Philip being, quote, snatched away by the Holy Spirit and appearing miles away. And when another user asked him directly if he had experienced something like that himself, Phillips responded yes, adding, quote, "The Bible calls it transported or translated." That post has been deleted since our reporting. Now, we asked FEMA and Phillips which part was taken out of context, but we have yet to hear back. But Phillips did post a lengthy response to our story on True Social on Wednesday, writing that the podcast occurred while undergoing cancer treatment and, quote, "The podcast at the center of this controversy was part of chronicling that journey, and during that journey, things happened that I can't explain." This all comes after Phillips failed to appear at a House Homeland Security meeting last week, where he had been scheduled to testify on the impact of the partial shutdown on DHS. That is the agency that oversees FEMA. Now, neither Phillips nor FEMA responded to CNN's question about why he didn't appear, but again, it occurred several days after CNN's reporting. Multiple Democratic lawmakers at that hearing saying that Phillips' past comments made him unfit to lead the Office of Response and Recovery, which sources have told us is one of the most consequential roles at the agency, pointing not only to his claims about teleportation, but his past violent rhetoric about former President Biden and inflammatory comments about migrants. Brianna?
Bro. So I did a little digging.
Tonight, an update to an...
Just a tiny bit. Just surface level. Really just surface level. I just typed in Greg Phillips, and his Wikipedia popped up. We're just going to take a look at one section, okay? Controversies. Government roles. I just want to show you how long this is. to say. He is a controversial figure in a very important position in our government is the understatement of all time. This man is out of his fucking mind. I mean, it still keeps going to unsubstantiated and false voter claim, voter fraud. I mean, this man is out of his fucking gourd, dude. Out of his fucking gourd. And he is the head of the Office of Response and Recovery for FEMA. We are so cooked. Okay. Let's see. What do we got left? We got Caroline Leave It. We got the House Flip. We got Jeff Van Drew soundbite. Oh, Mohammed Safa, energy crisis in Asia. The UNRWA investigation. Big oil wealth transfer, HUD policy changes, job decreation, right? The job market is fucking awful. Name brand RF prescription tariff, and followed by the attack in Teva. We have Artemis 2 updates. We have the Hassan Piker slander and just absolute smear campaign that's going on right now. And then Kanye. I'm going to try and get through this stuff as fast as possible. And then we'll save these other more Perfect Union episodes for another day. Actually, you know what? I think I might skip the Caroline Leave It stuff. Let's look at this though, because we were talking about this a second ago. This is Harry Enton talking about what the Democrats would need to overturn the House, and he explains it better than I did about what most likely is going to happen.
You know, I would say that House Republicans are running for the exits faster than kids do on the final day of school. I mean, just take a look here. Oh, hello, most House retirements since 1930. So far this cycle, already 36. That is the grand record over the last nearly 100 years. My goodness gracious. That actually beats the former record in total, which was 34 back in the 2018 cycle. And that wasn't that long ago. And I do recall that was a very, very good year for House Democrats. The bottom line is this. You don't run for the exits unless you know trouble is brewing. And House Republicans so far believe trouble is absolutely brewing.
Okay, how do you know that? What does history tell us about these types of exits?
Okay, so, you know, I say it's brewing, and sometimes I just like to pontificate, but sometimes I actually have facts behind me. Let's take a look here.
Well, that's good.
Okay, party with the fewer House retirements since 1982 in midterms. They went on to win the U.S. House 80% of the time. Far fewer Democrats are retiring this cycle than Republicans. When one side runs for the exits, right? I'm doing my best right here, my best Usain Bolt right here. When one side runs for the exits, they lose the House of Representatives. When one side stays put, it's because they think something good is going to happen. And House Democrats clearly think something is good going to happen. And House Republicans clearly think something very bad is going to happen.
Again, we said this is basically a record since 1930, more than we've seen in 100 years. And that's just so far. I mean,
that's just so far. This is, I think, what's so clear is this number is likely to climb ever higher.
Okay, so what are they looking at? Sam Graves last Thursday, and it was a surprise. It was a bit of a reversal. What might he have been looking at that caused him to retire?
You know, some elected officials aren't so smart, but many of them are. And they're looking at the same numbers we're looking at. And what they're looking at is the President of the United States and his approval rating. So why don't we just take a look here? Why are GOP retiring? Okay, when the president's approval is less than 50%. I went back all the way through the record books, all the way back since 1938 in midterm elections. When the House, the Press Party in the House, on average, loses 34 seats. Loses 34 seats when the president's approval rating is less than 50%. Donald Trump isn't anywhere close to 50%. He's at 40%. The average, the House for the president's party, they lose 34 seats. The least was just 9. That was actually Joe Biden back in 2022. But guess what? House Democrats only need to pick up of 1, 2, 3 in order to gain a majority. So the least, even the worst case scenario for Democrats is not anywhere close to what Republicans need to hold on to the House of Representatives. And one little last historical anecdote as I go over to the blackboard over here. The only 2 times that the president's party did not lose at least 3 seats was 1998 and 2002. You know what the president's approval rating was in those years? It was 60% plus. And Donald Trump at this point is just at a 40% approval rating, nowhere near what House Republicans need. And that is why I said they're running to the exit. John laughing over there.
No, I mean, you have great form. Harry, thank you.
You have
This
great
is very
form.
different than the president's current approval rating.
60 is very different from 40.
Thank you very much, sir.
Sarah? Was that good form? Because I'm thinking of running a long race.
Sarah, we're going to run that marathon very much.
Are we? Okay, got it. Oh, you're good. You're good. All right, I'm taking tips. Thank you, guys. Coming.
Oh my Lord, I love Harry Anton. He's a funny cat. All right, we'll skip that. Just know, fuck Jeff Van Drew. He's a piece of shit that wants you to get another job. Okay, I want to talk about this is more about media literacy and understanding who you're following on Twitter, especially social media. So this guy Mohammed Safa has been an account that's been in and out of my peripherals, my periphery, for the last few years. Kind of pops in here and there. Sometimes has like posts that you're just not sure about, like what the fuck he's talking about and like why he's stating things the way that he's stating things. But he always claimed that he was a UN representative. Okay, so I want to open up. We're gonna start with this, and then we're gonna look at this article. Okay. So he posted this last Sunday, I believe. I don't think people understand the gravity of the situation as the UN is preparing for possible nuclear war use in Iran, nuclear weapon use. This is a picture of Tehran for you uneducated, untraveled, never served war hawks licking your chops at the thought of bombing. It's not some low population desert. There are families, children, family pets, regular working class people with dreams. You're sick to want war. Tehran is a city of nearly 10 million people. Imagine nuking Washington, Berlin, Paris, London, or beyond, bombed with nuclear weapons. I gave up my diplomatic career to leak this information. I suspended my duties as not to be part of or witness to this crime against humanity in an attempt to prevent nuclear winter before it is too late. Yesterday, nearly 10 million people protested no kings in the United States. The possibility of the use of nuclear weapons must be taken very seriously. It's dangerous. Act now. Spread this message worldwide. Take to the streets. Now, he'll make posts be like, "Oh, they're trying to silence me. Put a period in the comments to let me know that you would share my post or that you support me or whatever." Blah 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 blah. So when I saw this post, I was like, "Man, we're gonna bomb Iran. We're gonna bomb Tehran specifically with a nuclear weapon? That seems kind of crazy." I mean, we've done crazier shit in the past, but a lot of people, including Nirwan Kaswani or Nirwad Kaswani, the woman who literally had a assassination attempt thwarted last week by the FBI. She shared this. She shared this post, and so did a lot of other people that I follow. And then slowly they all started to unrepost the post. Okay. So this guy, Mohammed Safa, executive director, diplomat, I don't know what that means. PVA English. Okay. PVA is the what does it stand for again? The Patriotic Vision Association. It's a non-governmental organization. Okay, so the Middle East Eye did a report on this guy and his stuff, and after I had seen so many people share that post, okay, UN representative resigns over claims of planned nuclear strike on Iran. A representative at the United Nations resigned from his post on Friday and accused the international body of preparing for a scenario involving the possible use of nuclear weapons in Iran. Mohammed Safa, a UN representative for the Patriotic Vision Association, a non-governmental organization that holds special consultative status with the UN Economic and Social Council, said that he resigned from his role in order to leak the information before claiming that some senior figures at the UN had been serving a powerful lobby and not the UN itself. This is a picture of Tehran for you uneducated, untraveled, never served war hawks licking your chops at the thought of bombing. It's not some low population desert. These are families, blah, blah, blah. We just read that. According to the UN Environment Program Champions of the Earth, Safa had been executive director of the PVA since 2013 and was nominated as its permanent representative to the UN in 2016. His comments came days after officials at the World Health Organization said they were preparing for a worst-case scenario of nuclear catastrophe if the U.S. and Israeli war on Iran escalated. WHO Regional Director Hanan Balki told Politico that the worst-case scenario is a nuclear incident, and that's something that worries us the most. She stressed that such an event would have consequences lasting decades, affecting not just the region but the international community. WHO staff, she noted, are preparing for nuclear scenarios in its broader sense, including both attacks on nuclear facilities and the use of nuclear weapons themselves. Last week, the Nobel laureate and former Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Mohammed El-Baradei, also warned against the potential use of nuclear weapons in the ongoing conflict. When asked about whether nuclear weapons could be used against Iran, he told Middle East Eye, should I 100% exclude it? No. Do I pray every night that it doesn't happen? Yes. If you have a crazy leader and they feel they're losing, I don't exclude it. In recent days, several Iranian politicians have advocated for Tehran to exit the treaty on the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons after the U.S. and Israel ramped up attacks and struck civilian nuclear sites. It would be meaningless for Iran to remain a signatory in the international treaty as it had no benefit for us, the spokesperson for the Commission of Parliament. Iran has been party to the NPT since 1970 and is legally bound as a non-nuclear weapon state, not to acquire nuclear weapons. But Trump said they had nuclear weapons. They were trying to get nuclear weapons. But they're part of the non-proliferation treaty. And they had a fatwa against creating a nuclear weapon. Its nuclear program is therefore assessed within a treaty framework that imposes specific legal obligations and international verification requirements. In contrast, Israel is not a party to the NPT. As a result, it cannot legally be bound by obligations arising from that treaty. So, who the fuck is this guy? Right? He's a consultant, essentially, for, what did it say? For the UN Economic and Social Council. Okay? He's not a UN representative. He claims to be, and on his Twitter page is constantly asking for engagement from people, right? He has over half a million followers. And you had people reposting what he's saying, even though the WHO had said it like 4 or 5 days earlier. So, the only reason I'm bringing this up, really, Know who you're fucking following. Know who you're listening to. Understand when they say stuff, whether or not it's true, where it's coming from, what are the motivations behind what they're saying, right? You don't know who the fuck I am. I'm no expert, but I state that up front, right? I am here to learn and to share what I learn with you and learn more and hope that people pay attention to what's going on in the world and that people have a little bit of media literacy so they understand what's being said and how it's being said to them, right? So, okay, so did it again. It's just Twitter being broken as fuck. All right. I think this might be, is this the end of, yeah, this is the end of this section. I think I'm going to have to call it quits after this. We've been going for almost 4 hours. I'm starving. I need to eat. It's like 3 in the afternoon here. So I'm going to finish it up. And we still have all of this stuff. I still want to talk about all this stuff, so maybe we'll just go over this on Tuesday. I'll just keep this updated, and we can just go on talk about it on Tuesday. Because I do want to talk about Kanye. I mean, I don't like Kanye at all. I don't support him at all. I think he's still a fucking Nazi. I think his entire apology was just absolute bullshit. And I do want to talk about the smear campaign against Hassan, but I know I'm going to end up talking about that for like a half an hour. And then there is some like economy stuff that I want to talk about, the pharmaceutical things. Yeah. So it's like 2 sections that I have left, but my stomach is like, bro, if we don't eat, we need to eat. So these are going to be the last 2 things that I talk about. So this is apocalyptic scenes across Asia. Vietnam and Bangladesh are shutting down as the fuel crisis bites. In Manila, protesters burned the American flag, explicitly blaming Washington's imperialist war on Iran for doubling food prices and starving the developing world.
Problem here, and the reason these people are so worried is that there doesn't seem to be an end in sight to all this, and energy shocks by their very nature take a while to bite and longer to work their way through, and it's hitting a region where the economies just don't have the broad shoulders or the reserves to handle it.
Indeed, across Asia there is barely a country untouched. Vietnam has ruled working from home, Bangladesh has rationed fuel and closed universities. Back in Manila, they're not shy with their sense of what or who is responsible.
Who do you blame for the fact that the fuel prices are so high? Whose fault is it?
Number 1, the U.S. imperialists.
The U.S. imperialists? Yeah. I mean, because the Philippines is a long-standing ally of the U.S. Is that something that you would like to see change?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. It's because all this ally thing, them helping us, it's just a front of their bigger agenda to exploit not only the Philippines, but the so-called third world countries.
Expensive fuel will mean expensive food. The price of rice here has doubled already. And in a region where millions already live in or close to poverty, we may yet only have a glimpse of how bad things could get.
So you got, I mean, pretty average, normal people on the street of Manila being like, yo, we need to BDS America. This shit is a front. The protection racket that they run is a fucking front. They're greedy motherfuckers. They just want to exploit us. Like, these are just people on the street in foreign countries. They know what's going on. You know what I mean? It's going to destroy our standings in the world. And I mean, they're already not good at this state. Last thing is from the UNRWA UNRWA Commissioner General confirms that investigations found zero evidence for Israel's allegations against their staff, yet the Washington establishment still passed laws to defund the vital humanitarian agency. They starved millions based on a lie. So if you remember last year, the United States and Israel basically said that UNRWA was a terrorist organization that was helping Hamas, and that they needed to be defunded. And we did defund them. And things got a lot worse. They ended up killing UNRWA workers. It was really fucking bad. And this was mainly in Palestine, or in Gaza.
On the investigation into allegations that UNRWA staff were part of the October 7th attacks?
Well, on the second question, the investigation concluded already in July 2024. You might remember that the investigation was inconclusive for 9 people, and the investigation also indicated that for the other 9 people there was absolutely no element. So, but since there have been number of allegations of infiltration, for which I have constantly requested the government of Israel to provide additional information in order to allow the agency to undertake investigation, but we never ever received any information of this nature. And as you said, many of these allegations have been debunked. The problem is that it had a negative impact on a certain number of donors, including the United States. Now, the United States has a legislation which prevents any funding to UNRWA until 2027. The question after that is, will there be an opening for a funding resumption past this deadline? It's very difficult to answer the question. I would say today, the environment would certainly not be conducive.
So yeah, basically when Doge came in and we like destroyed USAID, which was the biggest aid mechanism that we had in the federal government, and then stating that we're going to believe Israel and basically state that UNRWA is a terrorist organization, which is just fucking outrageous, dude. It's just outrageous. Okay. I'm tired. I'm hungry. I gotta go. Thank you to everyone for hanging out today. Look at this chat. That's pretty good. If you're watching this later, or if you're still watching right now and you're not followed, please think about giving the channel a follow. We did hit our goal of 40 followers. We're up to 40 now. 2 weeks ago, we had 17. So I think we're doing pretty good. 23 in 2 weeks. I got a few clips that are going pretty viral on Instagram right now, getting a lot of people focusing on the channel. So hopefully we'll just keep building, keep growing, keep going. I'll be back on Tuesday for news. I think tomorrow I might stream gaming. I may take the day off. I don't have any lessons, and I usually have lessons on Sundays. I might just take the day off and enjoy it, because the next few weeks are going to be pretty fucking crazy. But Tuesday I'll be back. We'll go over a few things, and we'll try and cover the rest of what was on this list, the stuff that I wanted to go over. Yeah. Also, if you're watching and you're following, we are still trying to get our I don't know if you can't see it, but it's over here, yeah, or this guy right here, our subscription goal 0. Let's get that first subscription, y'all. Please help me out. If you have an Amazon Prime account, you get 1 free Twitch subscription per month. Doesn't cost you any extra money, and it helps support the channel. So please think about it. I don't know what I'm gonna do with the first subscription I get to this channel. I'll probably jump out of my seat and just be super happy. So thank you for being here today. I do appreciate your time. Thanks for hanging out and chat. Let's see, who are we going to raid today? We are going to raid Oh, all right. We did casual last time, so let's do Gus.
Holy shit. All right, $800? For fuck's sake. What do you have to do, like commit a blood sacrifice? Okay, guys, at the beginning of the year, I kind of need it now. All right. At the beginning of the year, this was $464, right? $69.99. Look how much it shot up. It's over $800 now, $837. Right. And this is Amazon.